Chapter 35. In the Misty School's meeting hall, the Misty Six Tigers and Zhang Qingyue were discussing the development of the faction and the meeting between Peng and the other factions on the 2nd of February. Peng was still sitting in his usual spot. He looked at his senior and junior brothers who had grown up together with him from the front. After nearly 10 days of rest, he seemed to have completely controlled his power that had skyrocketed. The light in his eyes was already restrained. Based on his appearance, it was impossible to tell that he was a martial arts expert. He had truly returned to his natural state. Peng was very pleased. In fact, he wasn't the only one who was happy. Aside from Zhang Qingyue, who didn't take any pills, everyone else was in a very good mood. Of course, after 10 days of cultivation, their original excitement had already calmed down. What they needed to do now was to readjust the development strategy of the Misty School and work hard to strengthen the faction. They wanted to quickly become a super faction that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Dalan Temple, Incense Sect, and Heaven's Way Union. Peng coughed and cleared his throat before saying, "Fellow disciples, congratulations again on your great improvement in martial arts." The others returned the greeting and said, "Congratulations, congratulations. Thank you, faction leader, for your help." Peng continued, "Now that our Misty School's strength has greatly improved, I don't know what the other 3 factions are doing. Qingyue, is there any news from them?" Zhang Qingyue quickly said, reporting to faction leader, "There's news from Wan Jianpeak. Swordmaster Wan Changjiu and his protectors have been in seclusion for a few days. After they came out, they were like everyone else and didn't see any outsiders. They must have improved their strength. The Tan family is a family business, and the spies we sent out can't enter the upper echelons, so we don't know the specific situation. As for Yanming Villa, we can't interfere at all. The servants outside know very little and don't know the situation inside the villa." Peng wasn't too happy and said, "Qingyue, you've already done a lot of work in this area, but it's not enough. We need to expand the Misty School in the future. We can't do without news. You need to speed up and use all kinds of methods to nail our spies in the various factions. Without news, we'll be blind." Zhang Qingyue's face was full of guilt as he said, "Yes, master. I'll definitely pay attention in the future." Peng continued, "This is because I didn't instruct you properly. Before, I only let you practice martial arts, but now I need to teach you more about the faction's affairs. In this regard, you should learn more from your 4th martial uncle and be more attentive in the future." Zhang Qingyue nodded. Then Peng said, "The medicinal herbs in the secret plane, the pharmacy hall has refined another batch of medicinal pills. Now there are nearly 50 pills in total. Martial brothers, tomorrow afternoon, prepare to go into seclusion, and practice. Pay attention to keep this a secret. Also, Chengyu, you should inform your junior brothers as well." Everyone nodded. Peng thought for a moment and said, "Chengyu, pick a few of the 2nd and 3rd generation disciples with good aptitudes and come to the discussion hall tomorrow. The core disciples still need to be expanded." At this moment, Shangwan Laosi interjected, "Senior brother sect leader, now that our ethereal sect strength has increased greatly, we should consider how to expand the scope of our strength." Peng nodded and said, "Yes, this is also one of the topics for today's gathering." Boss Hu suggested, "Fourth brother, expansion isn't something that can be achieved in one bite. Do you have any ideas?" Shangwan 4th brother said, "These past few days, I've been thinking about this problem. Now I have a little idea." Peng smiled and said, "Then hurry up and say it. Who doesn't know that you're our Misty School's treasure of wisdom?" Shangwan 4th brother said, "Actually, this idea isn't that difficult. I think the first step is to follow Senior's idea and raise the strength of our core disciples. We'll use these core disciples to form an elite group and assign them to the Foreign Affairs Hall to carry out the task of expanding our influence. Our Southern sect's strength has increased because of this opportunity. It's not suitable for us to fight with them at this stage. Moreover, Senior may form an alliance with them next time, so we can't touch the South. The Luo Shui gang in the East and the Golden Crow sect in the West used to be weaker than us. They're good targets for us to make a move on. However, if we attack them at the same time, it will divide our strength. Senior needs to weigh the pros and cons. Peng thought for a moment and said, for now, let's set it as the Luo Shui gang. The Golden Crow sect is in the west, and their influence intersects with the 10,000 Swords sect. I'm afraid they're in cahoots with the 10,000 Swords sect. Who knows, the 10,000 Swords sect might also be watching them. The Luo Shui gang has always been based on the Luo River. This is what we lack. Now that they're still young, we'll take them down first. Advancing on land and water will bring endless benefits to our Misty School. Basu said, third brother, water is our weakness. Why don't we attack the Xian Rong sect in the east? After all, the Xian Rong sect's foundation isn't very deep. On land, we're also confident. Peng smiled and said to Basu, eldest brother, you and I have been deceived by the Xian Rong sect's low profile. I just received news that the leader of the Xian Rong sect is an abandoned disciple of the Dalan Temple's law-enforcing elder. This Xian Rong sect is obviously a pawn that the Dalan Temple has planted in our Pingyang city and Yu City. We can't act blindly. Besides, although the Luo Shui gang originated from the Luo Shui gang, as long as we make a move first and plan well, our chances of success are still very high. Peng took a sip of tea and continued, moreover, our Misty School has always been on land. Pingyang City's location is also sandwiched between the Luo Shui gang, the Golden Crow sect, and the Xian Rong sect. There's limited space for development. If we take over the Luo Shui gang's influence and make use of the Luo River, it'll be very beneficial for the gang's development. Everyone was silent and deep in thought. After half a cup of tea's time, Shengwan Laosi spoke. Fourth brother, according to this train of thought, I don't think I've seen enough people. Peng said, I've long thought about this. The development of the Misty School requires manpower. In the past, our sect focused on elites. Now that the strength of our senior disciples has increased, the number of junior disciples is obviously insufficient. How about this? Chengyue, you consider recruiting a batch of disciples recently to strengthen our sect strength. You can handle the details. Zhang Qingyue nodded in agreement. Then, Peng said to Zhang Qingyue, Qingyue, you can leave first. Inform your junior brothers that you should also rest well and prepare to improve your skills tomorrow. Zhang Qingyue's excited face was flushed red as he bowed and left. Lu Laowu, who had not interjected all this while, spoke now. Isn't it just improving your skills? Looking at you, Qingyue, what's there to be excited about? Zhang Qingyue thought to himself, old master, that's improving my skills. How can I not be excited? I heard that you've improved your skills for 20 years. How can I not be excited? Of course, his mouth still said, yes, fifth Shirshu is right. Martial nephew should be calm in the face of chaos. Peng said, don't listen to your fifth Shirshu's nonsense. However, you shouldn't be too excited. When you take the medicine, you must use it calmly. Otherwise, it will be a waste. Zhang Qingyue quickly walked out, only wanting to quickly leave fifth Shirshu's sight. When Zhang Qingyue walked out of the conference hall, Peng looked back and said to Lu Laowu with a smile, fifth Shitty, Qingyue is a steady child. Don't always make fun of him. Su Laowu also said, hee, you're still talking about him. When Laowu took the bone-strengthening pill that day, wasn't he just as excited? When he came out, he drank with the stone cow. If he wasn't happy, how could he be so drunk? Lu Laowu's face turned red as he argued. I absorbed the medicine and was tired from cultivating. Otherwise, how could I not drink as much as the stone cow? Everyone roared with laughter. Then, Peng sternly said to everyone, brothers, the medicine taken from the secret plane last time has been refined. In a few days, it will be the second day of the dragon raises its head. Our four sects have agreed to meet at Wudong Mountain. This time, we will discuss the next time we enter the secret plane to take the medicine. Perhaps we will discuss the alliance. What do you all think? Shengwan Laowu said, Senior, I think this alliance is unlikely. Peng said, why? Shengwan Laowu explained, of course, one Jianfeng and our Misty School can form an alliance. We are all Jianghu gangs. We share fortune and misfortune together. However, Yinming Villa and the Tan family, although they are in Jianghu, they basically don't participate in Jianghu affairs. They have no reason and no strength to form an alliance with us. Openg touched his chin thoughtfully and said, "Of course, a superficial alliance won't work. Our four sects can't explain to other Jianghu sects in terms of development, sphere of influence, and gang composition. If we announce an alliance, it will definitely attract the attention of other sections. At that time, we will lose more than we gain. I prefer a loose alliance, or an alliance between the four leaders, rather than an alliance between gangs. This way, we can share the secret of the secret plane and keep the news of the secret plane from leaking." Hu Lao nodded and said, "This idea is good. The purpose of this alliance is only for the secret plane. It is separated from the interests of the gangs. Once any party leaks the news of the secret plane, the other three sects will kill them together." Openg smiled bitterly and said, "If the news is leaked, there will be no need for the other three sects to crusade. There will soon be a bloody storm in Jianghu. So, we must seize the time to strengthen our own strength." Then, Openg turned his head and asked Li Laowu, who had been looking down and not speaking, "Second senior, have you read the sword manual?" Li Laowu nodded and didn't reply. Openg didn't care and continued to ask, "How many of our Misty School's current disciples can change?" Li Laowu also shook his head. Openg said a little dispiritedly, "Alas, it is indeed inappropriate to change halfway. Fourth senior, when Shunyu recruits disciples, you can also choose some of them to practice this sword manual. At the same time, you can also ask second senior to guide you. It is best if second senior can take in a few more disciples." Li Laowu nodded in agreement. It seemed that since his strength improved last time, he was more focused on the cultivation of the sword and didn't speak much. Chapter 36. The main person in charge of cultivating the disciples of the Misty School was Shangguan Laosi, so he naturally nodded in agreement. Openg continued, "Although there are a lot of herbs in this secret plane, they are still limited. Last time I brought back some herbs, I asked her to take one of them and cultivate them in her Huanxi mountain villa, but I don't know if it will be effective. Sixth junior brother, you have to pay attention to this. If Yenner has any requests, you have to do your best to coordinate." Su Laosi smiled and said, "No problem, third senior brother. Yin, or this girl likes to fiddle with strange things the most. Maybe we can really cultivate good herbs for her." At the mention of Openg, this sister, everyone's face was full of smiles. Basu also said, "Time really flies. In the blink of an eye, this little girl is also an adult. How can we not be old?" Lu Laosi, who was drinking silently and didn't participate in the discussion, also said, "That's right. The little girl who peed on my head back then has now become a heroine." Openg glared and said, "These words can only be said in front of the brothers. If there's an outsider or Yin present, you absolutely can't say it." Then he added, "Unless you don't want your big axe anymore." Lu Laosi shrank his head and said, "I know, I don't want this great ant to sink my axe into the Luo River again." Everyone burst into laughter, and the tense atmosphere was swept away. Everyone tasted the tea for a while. Then Basu said, "Laosi, it's not far from the 2nd of February. You also have to prepare. Ask Laosi and Laosi to go with you. Also pick a group of capable disciples from the second generation so that they can take care of each other." Openg shook his head and said, "I think this year's 2nd of February will be the same as last year. I will only bring Madame O and a few serving maids. It will look like we're going to the Dragon God Temple to burn incense. We can't let others know." Shangguan Laosi shook his head and said, "Third senior brother, our Misty School has made such a big move. There's no way they wouldn't notice it. Maybe they don't know our real trump card, but we can't let our guard down. It's better to bring more people, just in case." Openg pondered for a moment and said, "Fourth martial brother, you're still looking at the situation with the same eyes as before. Right now, our martial arts are well known in Jianghu and can be ranked at the top. I believe that if I insist on escaping, there aren't many people in Jianghu who can stop me. and those few people can be counted with one's fingers. How could they lower themselves to ambush me? Shangwan Lao Si gave Bosu a look. Bosu thought for a moment and said, Lao San, what Lao Si said makes sense. It's better to be safe than sorry. Jianghu is full of conspiracies and intrigues. Protecting yourself is the way to go. You're the face of our Misty School, so you can't afford to have any mishaps. How about this? Since you don't want to attract attention, then you don't need to bring too many people. Why don't you bring Lao Si and the girls with you? Before he finished, Peng didn't say anything. Instead, Lu Lao Wu applauded and said, Big brother, that's a good idea. That Lao Si used to be a car driver. After not driving for a few years, he's probably itching for a fight. Moreover, his body is now like an iron shield. He can block the hidden weapons for sister-in-law. Peng had no choice but to agree and said, All right, then it's settled. I won't bring the second-generation disciples. They still need to improve their skills. Don't delay their development. As for those who don't improve their skills this time, it's useless for me to bring them along. Everyone saw that Peng had given in and didn't insist on it anymore. After arranging the sex affairs, everyone dispersed. The candles in the meeting hall were extinguished. The dark hall was like an old man in his twilight years. He closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Yu City was the main city of Yu Country. It was a few days' journey from Pingyang City. Peng set off early the next day. Since he was going to the Longshan Temple to offer incense, he had to be dressed to do so. He couldn't use his light body technique to travel alone. Just as Lu Lao Wu said, that Lao Si was an experienced car driver. When he heard that he was going to drive the sect master's cart to Yu City, he got on the horse early and checked the condition of the cart carefully. Now, he was driving the cart smoothly and proudly on the road. He was enjoying it very much. Peng and Madame O sat in the cart. Although this cart was specially made by the sect, it was rare to see it so stable. Peng looked at the cup full of wine on the small table in the room. He couldn't help but smile and say to Madame, this Lao Si's skills in driving the cart are not to be trifled with. We can't go without him when we go out in the future. Madame O also smiled sweetly and said, that's a waste of his talent. Peng said, what is lacking the most in the martial arts world today? Talent. This is talent. He has the ability to fight against 10,000 people and can drive so steadily. He's a compound talent. My Misty School has hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Madame O rebuked. You, the sect master, are serious in the sect. Why do you have a bad smile on your face now? Speaking of compound talents, you're the best in the sect. Not only are you the best in the world at ethereal steps, but you're also the best in making your wife happy. Peng laughed and said to the outside, Lao Si, good job. You're the best at driving a cart in the sect. I can't compare to you. You're not good at making your wife happy. I'm the best in the sect. When the stone cow heard this, he laughed out loud and drove the cart even harder. Madame O blushed in the cart and hit Peng, causing the maids in the cart to laugh softly. At this time, the Lao Si's wild singing came from outside the cart. It must be because the Lao Si had traveled to a remote place and the Lao Si sang. Everyone listened carefully. The Lao Si sang, Sister, you sit at the bow of the boat. I walk on the shore. Love and love, the rope swings. It was a song that the Lao Si had learned from somewhere. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. After traveling for a few days, they were about to reach Yu City. The journey was peaceful, and they didn't encounter any trouble. The road outside Yu City was very wide, and there were many trees planted along the road. The weather was warm now, and there was some greenery on the treetops. There were also many passers-by, and the cart could no longer gallop as freely as before. However, under the Lao Si's skillful driving, the speed didn't slow down. Madame O looked at the scenery outside the window and praised, This Yu City is indeed the main city of our Yu Nation. It's much more prosperous than Pingyang City. Even the outskirts are so lively. I wonder if the Dragon God Temple is full of people now. When the cart arrived at the Dragon God Temple, they realized that the inside and outside of the temple were full of people. There was no place for the cart to stop. Fortunately, Peng and the rest had martial arts and weren't afraid of the crowd. They moved slowly with the crowd and soon arrived in front of the temple. Everything was the same as in the past. Openg and his wife offered incense to the dragon god, made a wish, kowtowed, and gave alms. Then they followed the crowd out of the dragon god temple. The Lao Si stood on the cart and looked around. When he saw Openg and the rest coming over, he immediately jumped down from the cart and said, "Sect Master, why are you out so soon?" Openg said, "There are so many people coming here every year. The incense is very prosperous. The monks in the temple are all busy and can't talk to their abbot. We'll talk about it when we have time." The Lao Si gestured for everyone to get on the cart and then asked Openg, "Sect Master, are we going to the U City branch now?" Openg waved his hand and said, "There's no hurry to go to the branch. Go to the restaurant next door to buy some wine and food. We'll go to Wudong Mountain now." The Lao Si agreed and went to buy wine and food. Madame O asked curiously, "Why are we going to Wudong Mountain again? Last time you, Yiming Jusher, Wan Chengjiu, and Tan Yefeng were drinking wine and discussing heroes at Wudong Mountain. Could it be again this time?" Openg smiled and said, "Yes, I didn't have enough fun last year. Of course, I have to continue this year." Not long after, the Lao Si bought the wine and food and then drove to Wudong Mountain. The Dragon God Temple was at the foot of Wudong Mountain. Not long after, the carriage arrived at a place where they could climb the mountain. There were also some wine shops and inns in this place. Openg and the others booked a few rooms and arranged for Madame O and a few maids to rest. Openg took the Lao Si and walked up the mountain path. Wudong Mountain was not too high, and it was not the season to climb the mountain. There were not many tourists. Openg used his qin gong to walk in front. Although the Lao Si practiced external martial arts and also carried wine and food, he was not much slower than Openg on the mountain path. Not long after, Openg reached the top of the mountain. Then the Lao Si also came up. Looking at the Lao Si's calm and steady breathing, Openg could not help but mutter in his heart. Although he had only used 30% of his qin gong, he was good at qin gong. This 30% of his qin gong was already very impressive in the martial arts world, but the Lao Si was not much slower than him. It could be seen that the effect of this bone-strengthening pill was extraordinary. At this time, it was almost noon. The top of Wudong Mountain was bathed in sunlight and was very warm. Openg looked under the tree at the top of the mountain. No one had come yet. Openg called the Lao Si to walk under the tree. He sat on the stone and let the Lao Si place the wine and food he bought one by one in the open space under the tree. Before the Lao Si finished placing the wine and food, Openg heard footsteps coming from the mountain path. He stood up and saw a short and strong man coming up from the bottom of the mountain. It was the Wan Jian Peak's sword master, Wan Chengjiu. Openg stepped forward and bowed. "Brother Wan, how have you been?" Wan Chengjiu leaped to the top of the mountain and returned the greeting. "Sect leader, O came really early. We agreed to meet at noon. I thought I was early, but I didn't expect someone to come even earlier." Openg said, "I came a little earlier to arrange the wine and get drunk." Wan Chengjiu said, "Sect leader, O is meticulous. I admire you." So the two walked under the tree and chatted. After a while, the sun in the sky was about to hang above their heads. It was almost noon, but the other two still hadn't appeared. Openg and Wan Chengjiu couldn't help but think, could it be that something happened? Just as they were thinking, they heard a voice from the bottom of the mountain. Brother Tan was half a step late. "This little brother has won this round." It was Yiming Jusher's hearty laughter. Openg and Wan Chengjiu smiled at each other and turned to look at the intersection. They saw Yiming Jusher's thin figure appear on the path to the top of the mountain. A middle-aged man with a medium build and dressed like a rich man also climbed up the mountain. It was the Tan family's patriarch, Tan Yefeng. Chapter 37. When the four met, they greeted each other. Wan Chengjiu asked, "Why do you say that, Brother Yiming?" Yiming Jusher smiled and said, "Brother Tan and I met at the bottom of the mountain. When we saw that it was almost time, we made a bet to see who would reach the top first. It seems that I'm the early bird that reached first." Openg smiled and said, "Brother Tan's strength isn't in light body technique. You can compete with him in martial arts later." Yinming Jusher waved his hand and said, I know that. I can't beat him, but today we're only talking about wine and not swords. Chief O, you're disappointed. Tan Yefeng also spoke. Brother Yinming has the upper hand in this bet. I'll drink 3 big bowls in a while. O Peng and Wan Qingjiu laughed and said, Brother Tan is a straightforward person. Come, Brother Yinming, Brother Tan, this way please. Everyone came to the bottom of the tree and saw the stone ox standing there like an iron tower. They asked curiously, Who is this brother? O Peng introduced. This is the stone ox, a disciple of the Misty School. Stone ox, come and greet Yinming Jusher and the Tan family's patriarch. The stone ox came over and greeted them. Everyone praised and said that the Misty School was really full of hidden talents. O Peng also humbly denied it. Then O Peng let the stone ox guard the entrance to the mountain to prevent people from going up the mountain. Everyone sat down. Tan Yefeng first picked up a jar of wine from the ground and poured it into a porcelain bowl. He said to Yinming Jusher, Watch carefully, I'll drink first. Then he put the bowl to his mouth and drank it all in one gulp. Then he drank another bowl. When he drank the third bowl, O Peng said, Brother Tan, we'll drink with you too. After saying that, he also poured a bowl. Yinming Jusher and Wan Qingjiu also agreed and poured a bowl each. Everyone clinked their bowls and drank it all in one gulp. Then they put the porcelain bowls on the ground. Tan Yefeng was the first to speak. Brother O, you're really thoughtful. I came in a hurry, and seeing that it's getting late, I've already forgotten about the food and wine. I'm sure Brother Yinming has the same thoughts as me, right? Yinming Jusher said awkwardly, That's right. I didn't expect there to be so many people in Dragon God Temple. It took me a bit of time to arrange for my family members, and in the end, I ended up delaying my own matters. Wan Zhuqing laughed heartily and said, I didn't waste any time, but I also forgot about these minor details. But Chief O is here to help us. It's fine as long as we have wine to drink. There's no need to say so much. O Peng also said, Brother Wan is right. It's fine as long as someone is prepared. Why should we care about who it is? Come, let's drink again. Everyone laughed heartily and drank another bowl. Tan Yefeng was the first to speak. Everyone, although there aren't many tourists on Wudong Mountain right now, it's not like there aren't any. Letting the stone cows guard this intersection is only a temporary solution. I think we should return to the main topic and discuss things earlier. Once we've settled the important matters, how about we drink and chat merrily? Yinming Jusher also said, I have the same intention. O Peng said, Then how about we first confirm the next time we enter the secret area? Wan Qingjiu also nodded in agreement. Tan Yefeng said, But according to the booklet, we can only enter on the 15th of the first lunar month every year. Yinming Jusher said, Brother Tan, don't worry. According to my speculation, the booklet said that we can only enter on the 15th of the first lunar month for 2 reasons. First, it's because of the formation formed by the jujube trees outside the secret area. A passage will only appear on the 15th of the first lunar month every year, allowing people to enter. Second, only the sunlight on the 15th of the first lunar month can accurately indicate the location of the entrance. Before I entered last time, I've already made marks on the 2 jujube trees near the entrance, so it shouldn't be difficult to find the location of this entrance. I've never heard of a formation in the martial arts world that can change with time. Moreover, there's so many days in a year, so the formation can only pass through on a specific day. This is too unbelievable. Brother Wan, Brother O, your faction has been passed down for a long time, and you've encountered many things in the martial arts world. Have you encountered such a thing? Wan Qingjiu and O Peng looked at each other and shook their heads, but O Peng said, Although we haven't encountered it, and the ancient books in the faction haven't recorded it, the formation is indeed lost in the martial arts world. We can't be sure that this formation doesn't have the function of a time limit. The 4 of them did not speak. After all, none of them had any attainments in formations. There is no such talent in the faction, and there might not even be such a person in the entire martial arts world. How could they make a decision? Tan Yefeng said, Then there are only 2 ways now. One is to wait patiently until the 15th of the first lunar month next year. then organize people to enter. The other is to find time recently to send a few people to explore the path and see if we can enter. What do you think? Wan Qingjiu said, the matter of obtaining the treasure in the secret land is of great importance. There can't be the slightest mistake. Last time, we secretly sent the second-generation disciples there. Although we kept it a secret in advance and didn't leak the news, we can't guarantee that the other factions haven't heard of it. In order to keep it a secret, I suggest that we don't try it rashly without being absolutely sure. Otherwise, if the news is leaked, this secret land won't be the secret land of our 4 factions, but the secret land of the entire martial arts world. Openg also agreed and said, there are no secrets in the martial arts world. Maybe our meeting at Wudong Mountain this time has already fallen into the eyes of someone with ulterior motives. Presumably, there are already people secretly watching us on this mountain. Yinming Jusher said, are we just going to wait for a year in vain? Openg said with a smile, Brother Yinming, you don't know the value of salt and rice until you're in charge. Our faction's actions in the martial arts world can't be compared to your family's power. The composition of our faction is complicated, and it's inevitable that the good and the bad are mixed together. It's very difficult to really do anything in secret. We have to be very careful. Wan Qingjiu also nodded in agreement. Yinming Jusher still didn't give up and said, since you all have such intentions, then I'm going to find a time to explore the secret land again. What do you think? Wan Qingjiu and Openg frowned at the same time. Only Tan Yefeng was expressionless, as if he had already known that Yinming Jusher would have such an idea. Openg saw Tan Yefeng's expression and asked, what does Brother Tan mean? Tan Yefeng coughed and said, in fact, I also have this intention for a long time. I want to explore the secret land before the 15th of the first month of next year. If Brother Yinming didn't mention it, I would have suggested it to you. Wan Qingjiu lowered his head and didn't speak, as if he was thinking. Openg said, before deciding whether to go to the jungle or not, I have a proposal to discuss with you and see if it's feasible. Everyone looked at Openg strangely, waiting for him to speak. Openg said, I suggest that we form an alliance and advance and retreat together in the treasure hunting of the secret land. Yinming Jusher shook his head and said, our villa can't form an alliance with your Misty School and Wan Jianfeng. The Jianghu affairs you participate in are too complicated. There are often gang bloody battles. After forming an alliance, it's not good for the development of our villa. Tan Yefeng also repeatedly agreed. Openg said with confidence, you two have misunderstood. The alliance I'm talking about is a little different from the alliance I usually talk about. First, it's not an alliance between gangs. There's no need to participate in the Jianghu affairs between each other. Second, this alliance is purely an alliance between the 4 of us. Although the 4 of us can't share weal and woe with each other, we can form an alliance to advance and retreat together in the secret land and enjoy blessings together. Third, this alliance is limited to the secret land and doesn't involve other aspects. What do you think? Wan Qingjiu said with joy, Leader O really has a bright mind. This idea is good. Let's do it. Yinming Jusher and Tan Yefeng also smiled and agreed. So, Openg poured a porcelain bowl of wine, cut his finger with a sword, and dripped blood into the wine. The other 3 did the same. Openg took the porcelain bowl, shook it slightly, and drank a few mouthfuls. Then he handed it to Wan Qingjiu. Wan Qingjiu still drank it. Then Tan Yefeng and Yinming Jusher all drank the blood wine. Yinming Jusher smashed the porcelain bowl. Everyone laughed and said, the alliance is a success. Everyone drank another bowl of wine together. Openg then said, since Brother Yinming and Brother Tan insist on going, Brother Wan and I will naturally advance and retreat together with you. How about this? At the end of this month, we'll still send disciples to the same place as last time. Brother Yinming will still lead the way. How about it? Yinming Jusher said, no problem. This is my duty. However, this time, do we still send each other's family members to each other's place? Openg, Wan Qingjiu, and Tan Yefeng looked at each other. Openg said, Last time was the first time we cooperated, so we didn't feel at ease. Now that we've formed an alliance, we naturally feel at ease. I don't think there's any need. Wan Qingjiu and Tan Yefeng also agreed. At this time, the stone cow walked over quickly and said, "Gang leader, there are a few tourists coming up the mountain path from the foot of the mountain. Should we stop them?" Openg waved his hand and said, "This Wutong mountain isn't our home. Of course, we can't stop others from coming. You don't have to guard it. Just wait here." After saying this, the four poured wine and talked about the strange happenings of the Jianghu with the food and wine. They seemed to be in a leisurely mood. Not long after, a few people came to the top of the mountain. It looked like they were really tourists. After touring the mountain for a while, they saw people drinking and chatting in this picturesque place. They felt disdain and didn't stay long before going down the mountain. Wan Qingjiu asked Openg, "Could it be that we're being paranoid?" Openg smiled and said, "These people aren't, but we can't say that there aren't any at the foot of the mountain. These people know that we're all from the Jianghu and have sharp eyes. How could they come up so easily?" Openg suddenly thought of something and asked Wan Qingjiu, "The news of the secret plane must be kept secret. We can't relax in the slightest. Where is Situ Ping of the evil tiger gang now?" Wan Qingjiu smiled and drank a mouthful of wine. "Brother O, don't worry. Although I'm not as meticulous as you, I still know this. Leader Situ hasn't left Wanjian Peak since she returned with my disciple last time. I've already ordered an elder to accept her as a disciple. Moreover, I've also sent a few capable men to Lu Town. Leader Situ won't be Leader Situ anymore, but Wanjian Peak's Situ Ping." Chapter 38. Openg asked curiously, "What do you mean?" Wan Qingjiu smiled and said, "If Situ Ping wants to cultivate my 10,000 Swords Peak's martial arts, she naturally has to stay in the 10,000 Swords Peak for a long time. This 10,000 Swords Peak is quite far from Lu Town, so it's naturally inconvenient for her to deal with the matters of the gang. As her martial uncle, I naturally have to do it for her. I have already sent the elite disciples of the gang to Lu Town to take over her evil tiger gang. This kind of small gang, I'm only taking care of it for Situ Ping's sake." Openg heard this and only smiled. Brother Wan really is working hard for your disciple. However, in his heart, he said, "This old fox, he's still trying to act innocent after taking advantage." Wan Qingjiu also said, "Isn't it to protect our secret? Otherwise, why would I be willing to take over this kind of shit?" Everyone said, "Then it's really been hard on Brother Wan. Let's drink a bowl." After that, everyone no longer talked about the secret plane, but talked about the blood of the pugilistic world, romance, and everything else. Only when the food and wine were finished did they split up and go their separate ways. However, they all tacitly agreed not to talk about the treasures they obtained in the secret plane and the improvement of their martial arts. Far away, in a secluded mountain village between Lu Town and Pingyang City, in the same manner that took up a lot of space, there were two people sitting in a large hall in the north. One was a skinny young man, and the other was a middle-aged man whose hair was a little white. They were the evil tiger gang's Situ Liang, Hall Leader Situ Liang, and Zhao third brother, Hall Leader Zhao. The two of them were currently drinking tea with their brows furrowed. Hall Master Zhao drank a mouthful of tea, but did not seem to be able to taste the tea's fragrance. He heavily placed the teacup on the table and asked Situ Liang, Hall Master Situ, "It's been almost a month since there's been any news of the gang leader. We don't even know if he's dead or alive. What should we do?" Situ Liang said unhappily, "Hall Master Zhao, what are you saying? How can you say such inauspicious things during the new year?" Hall Master Zhao immediately said embarrassedly, "I'm not in a rush. Hey, I take back what I just said." As he said that, he spat on the ground to show that he was taking back what he just said. Then he said, "Without seeing the gang leader, no one had a good year. Who knows what our future will be like?" Situ Liang comforted him. "Although the gang master isn't in the gang, aren't our evil tiger gang's members still here? Everything should be the same as before. It's not like we've wiped out the gang." Hall Master Zhao chuckled and said, "Hall Master Situ, you're also saying inauspicious words." Sita Liang was stunned for a moment. Then he also spat on the ground and said, take it back, take it back. This is truly annoying, making me speak without thinking. Hall Master Zhao said, it's fine, it's fine. Isn't everyone worried about gang leaders' safety? Situ Liang continued, in the past, there have been situations where gang master went out and didn't return, but there would still be news coming back. Furthermore, the time he went out was only a few days at most. Now it's been so long. Could it be he really... Situ Liang didn't dare to say anymore. Hall Master Zhao continued, Hall Master Situ, when gang leader isn't here, it's the new year. Most of the gang's members are at home, celebrating the new year, so there aren't many things to do in the gang. Seeing that the new year is about to end, everyone will be coming back. There are a lot of things to take care of as well. If there is still no news from gang leader, then it doesn't seem too good. At the very least, there will be people's hearts wavering. Situ Liang nodded and said, that's right. We need to have an agenda so that there won't be any large fluctuations. Just as they were talking, someone came to reporting to Hall Master, there are 7 people rushing towards us from 10 li away. It seems like they're from Jianghu. Situ Liang was stunned. He looked at Hall Master Zhao and said, at this time of the year, who could it be? The gang that we're on good terms with already came here before the new year. How could they know about this place if they're not familiar with it? Could it be that they're just passing by? Hall Master Zhao said, perhaps. However, could it be that they're here to cause trouble for us? Situ Liang shook his head and said, the numbers aren't right. If they're here to cause trouble, how could a mere 7 people be a match for our entire evil tiger gang? Although most of the gang members aren't in the gang, there's still a few dozen of them. Hall Master Zhao was also confused and said, then why are they here? Situ Liang said, let's just wait and see. We'll keep an eye on them first and see if they're here for us. However, we need to make preparations to welcome them. Someone, notify the brothers in the gang to make preparations to welcome the guests. Also, prepare signal fireworks. If there's a need, notify the brothers that aren't in the gang to come back and help. After half a cup of tea's worth of time, another person came to reporting to Hall Master Situ. Those 7 people are about to reach the entrance of the village. There isn't a large group of people behind them. Situ Liang stood up and said to Hall Master Zhao, let's go. This road in our village only allows people to enter and not exit. It seems like they're here for our evil tiger gang. Hall Master Zhao also stood up and said, let's go, we're going to welcome the guests. These 7 people really did come quickly. When Situ Liang and the others arrived at the entrance of the manor, the sound of their horses' hooves could be heard. Looking from afar, the 7 people were all dressed in black, and their faces could not be seen clearly. Only when they got closer could everyone see that the 7 people were of the same height, but they were all different. The one at the front was a young man with delicate features. He was as skinny as Situ Liang, but he carried a large sword on his back. They only saw them arrive at the entrance of the manor and dismount together. Their movements were very nimble and uniform. It was obvious that they had been trained for a long time. When they dismounted, 6 people stood there holding the reins without saying anything. The young man at the front threw the reins in his hands to the person beside him and walked forward himself. He bowed to Situ Liang on the stairs and said, may I ask if you are the evil tiger gang Situ Liang? Master Situ? Situ Liang also quickly bowed and said, that is me. May I ask who you are? The young man said with a smile, this one is Chu Xiangfeng of the 10,000 Swords Peak. I have come under the orders of my family's sword master to deliver news about your gang master, Situ Ping. When Situ Liang heard this, he was shocked. This 10,000 Swords Peak was not something the evil tiger gang could afford to offend. When did the gang master have any relationship with the 10,000 Swords Peak? He said with a smile, may I ask if Xiao Chu has any proof? Chu Xiangfeng did not get angry. He took out a token from his chest and handed it to Situ Liang. Situ Liang took it and looked at it. It was the gang master Situ Ping's token. He could not help but reveal a smile and said, it really is the gang master's token. Xiao Chu, please come in for a chat. Please. However, he did not return the token to Chu Xiangfeng. Chu Xiangfeng did not seem to mind. The group of 7 followed him into the manor. The horses were naturally given to the evil tiger gang to take care of as they entered the inner hall. In the main hall, everyone sat down as the servants brought in tea. Chu Xiangfeng did not pick up the teacup. Instead, he took out a letter from his chest and handed it to Situ Liang, saying, "Gang Master Situ has not returned for many days. The gang must be very worried. This is a letter from Gang Master Situ to your honorable gang. Hall Master Situ, please open it." Situ Liang smiled as he received the letter. He opened it and looked at the contents. His calm face revealed a bit of shock. After reading it, he handed the letter to Hall Master Zhao, who was beside him. Hall Master Zhao was also very surprised. After reading it, he looked at Situ Liang and nodded slightly. Situ Liang turned around and said to Chu Xiangfeng, "Xiao Xia Chu, this token is correct. The words on the letter were also written by our gang master. However, the things in the letter are not things that we can immediately reply to. Can I ask Xiao Xia and the others to rest in our gang for a bit and discuss it with us?" Chu Xiangfeng said, "Of course. However, I ask Hall Master Situ to reply to us as soon as possible." After saying this, he stood up with the other 6 people. Situ Liang quickly had the servants arrange for Chu Xiangfeng and the others to rest. After Chu Xiangfeng and the others left, Situ Liang and Hall Master Zhao immediately had their subordinates release the emergency signal for the evil tiger gang to gather the upper echelons of the gang back to the villa to discuss how to deal with the situation. When the signal was sent out, the 2 hall masters finally let out a sigh of relief. Hall Master Zhao sat in the main hall. Situ Liang excused himself and returned to his room first. Situ Liang quickly walked back to a small room that was not too far away from the main hall. He turned around to take a look before pushing open the door and entering. This small room was very clean. There was a bookshelf near the wall that was filled with books. There was a desk near the window that was filled with brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone. Situ Liang walked in front of the desk and sat on the chair as he looked outside the window. The tree branches outside the window had already turned green and were swaying in the spring breeze. They were full of life. Situ Liang's eyes, however, swept past the signs of spring and looked at the white clouds floating in the sky. After a while, he shook his head and rubbed his temples. He took out Situ Ping's tablet and used the light coming in from outside the window to carefully examine it. Suddenly, he stood up from the chair and placed the tablet on the table. He quickly walked in front of the bookshelf and gently took out a few books. There was a small box behind the bookshelf. Situ Liang carefully placed the box on the table and opened the lid with one hand, revealing a small porcelain bottle inside. Then, he skillfully picked up a brush and opened the lid of the porcelain bottle. He dipped the brush in some liquid and picked up the tablet with one hand. He used the brush to carefully brush a part of the tablet. Sure enough, on that small part of the tablet, 3 words gradually appeared. It was actually peaceful endurance. When Situ Liang finished tidying up the things on the table, the words on the tablet had also disappeared. He put the tablet back into his pocket and sat on the chair as he frowned and thought. In the time it took to eat a meal, the sky had already turned dark. Situ Liang was still sitting there without moving at all. At this time, someone lightly knocked on the door. Situ Liang replied, "Come in." Someone lightly pushed open the door and came in to report, "Hall Master Situ, Elder Chu, Hall Master Xing, and Hall Master Zhang have already returned. They are currently talking to Hall Master Zhao." "Hall Master Zhao told me to inform Hall Master Xing," Situ Liang said softly. "All right, I got it. I'll be there soon." Situ Liang waited for a while and seemed to have made a decision. Only then did he calmly stand up and tidy up the clothes on his body. Slowly, he walked out of the room. The room was not very far from the main hall, but Situ Liang did not walk quickly. The path in the dusk was no different from usual. However, Situ Liang knew that the evil tiger clan today was different from the evil tiger clan of the past. Chapter 39. When Situ Liang walked into the hall, there were 3 people whispering to each other. Hall Master Zhao silently sat in his original position and drank tea. It was as if he hadn't moved at all since Situ Liang left. Situ Liang's footsteps caused the three of them to stop talking. The three of them exchanged glances. The white-haired old man did not get up from his chair, but the other two stood up. One of them had a medium build and looked like a very capable man. The other was a slightly taller build and had a clean face. He looked like he was in his 40s or 50s. They walked to the center of the hall to welcome Situ Liang. The three of them greeted each other. Situ Liang asked, Hall Master Zhang, Hall Master Xing, how was your New Year's at home this year? The rich middle-aged man said, it was all right. New Year's with my family is naturally interesting. Compared to Hall Master Situ, staying alone in the gang, I feel a bit uneasy. Situ Liang waved his hand and said, I am alone. Isn't it the same wherever I go? Do you want Brother Zhang, who has a bunch of wives, to stay with me? I heard that Brother Zhang just found a young concubine before the New Year's. The capable man's face was a bit red as he hurriedly said, Hall Master Situ, you have wronged me. I'm only a mortal. I cannot cut off my emotions and desires. I cannot compare to Hall Master Situ, who has received the teachings of an immortal. You can cut off your mortal fate and leave the world of mortals. Hearing this, Situ Liang said with a strange expression, Brother Zhang, do you think I'm a monk? I am still preparing to find someone to carry on my family line. Hearing this, the two of them said, That's good. We have been waiting for that day. While the three of them were chatting, Elder Chu was getting impatient. He lightly coughed. Hearing this, Situ Liang quickly walked over and bowed. Elder Chu frowned and nodded, indicating for Situ Liang to sit. Only then did Situ Liang walk over to the chair across from Elder Chu and sit down. Before he could sit down, Elder Chu impatiently asked, Little Liang, is there any news about Ping Er? This Elder Chu was an elder in the gang. He had basically watched Situ Ping and Situ Ping grow up. Normally, in the hall, he would call them Gang Master and Hall Master. Now that he suddenly called them by their nicknames, it seemed like he was very worried about Situ Ping. Situ Liang's heart warmed up, and he hurriedly said, Elder Chu, my cousin is fine. She is just temporarily unable to return to the sect. Hall Master Xing also asked, What is going on here? Gang leader has always been a steady person. Something must have happened this time. When I asked old Zhao just now, he wouldn't say anything no matter what. He wanted to wait for you. Hurry up and tell us. Don't keep us in suspense. Situ Liang nodded and took out the letter from his bosom. He stood up and handed it to Elder Chu. Elder Chu took out the letter and read it carefully. His brows furrowed deeper and deeper. After that, Hall Master Xing and Hall Master Zhang also carefully read the letter. After everyone finished reading the letter, the hall fell into a dead silence. Elder Chu was the first to speak, asking, Little Liang, this letter is real, right? Situ Liang nodded and said, This is indeed my cousin's handwriting, and the time matches as well. It shouldn't be fake. Hall Master Zhang continued, But this is strange. Why would Myriad Sword Peak accept the gang leader as a disciple? The gang leader has already passed the best time to practice martial arts. Now that she has joined the Myriad Sword Peak, how could she stand out? Hall Master Xing also said, The most suspicious thing is that the gang leader actually allowed the Myriad Sword Peak disciples to temporarily manage the gang's affairs while she is away. What does this mean? Situ Liang also said, If gang leader joins the 10,000 Swords Peak, then we will naturally become a branch of the 10,000 Swords Peak. To our evil tiger gang, this can be considered a blessing from the heavens. However, the gang leader can't come back immediately. Could it be that she needs to cultivate high-level martial arts? Elder Chu frowned and said, Our little bit of power to the Myriad Sword Peak is like a piece of meat on a fly. Why would they care about it? They even let a few disciples take over. Aren't they placing too much importance on it? Hall Master Zhao was silent for a while before saying, There are too many suspicious points in this matter. We should at least let the gang leader come back and give a detailed explanation. Just by finding a few people in a letter, they want us to give our hard-earned territory to others. Isn't this just child's play? Situ Liang gave a bitter smile and said, Then what should we do? Can we not endure it? The word endure seemed to be especially clear. The rest of the people did not say anything. That's right, what else could they do? In front of absolute martial arts, any schemes or resistance would be futile. However, seeing that everyone was silent, Elder Chu asked, "Where are the myriad Sword Peak disciples?" Situ Liang said, "They've all been arranged to rest. They should have finished eating dinner by now." Elder Chu said, "Then let them come over for everyone to meet and discuss the details." Situ Liang nodded and sent people to invite Chu Xiangfeng and the others. Not long later, the 7 people from the Myriad Sword Peak arrived at the main hall. The people from the Evil Tiger Gang came forward to greet them. After greeting each other, they sat down. Elder Chu said warmly, "Xiao Chu, we are in a remote area here and are lacking in things. I wonder if you can get used to it?" Chu Xiangfeng quickly said, "Elder Chu is too courteous. My generation has traveled the Jianghu, and it is normal for us to sleep in the wilderness. There is nothing we can't get used to in your gang." Elder Chu stroked his beard and said, "That's good." Then he asked, "Can Xiao Chu explain in detail the situation of our gang leader Situ?" Chu Xiangfeng smiled and said, "Senior Sister Situ is very fortunate. She was coincidentally chosen by our Myriad Sword Peak's Elder Yun Feng and taken in as a disciple. She is currently cultivating in seclusion at the Myriad Sword Peak. Elder Yun is a famous expert in our sect. I'm sure that Senior Sister Situ's martial arts will improve even further and enter the ranks of the Jianghu experts. As for the details, Chu is not too clear either. Everything will have to wait for Senior Sister Situ to return and ask her in detail." Chu Xiangfeng's words were watertight, and no one was able to get any clues from him. Seeing that no one was speaking, Chu Xiangfeng smiled and said, "Chu is here on orders from my master to temporarily take over the affairs of your gang. May I know how the discussion went?" Although these words were spoken to the crowd, Chu Xiangfeng's eyes were fixed on Elder Chu, who was sitting at the head of the table. Elder Chu saw Chu Xiangfeng's gaze and was about to speak when someone else spoke first. "Young hero Chu wants us to listen to your commands with just a letter. How can we be convinced?" Chu Xiangfeng turned his head and saw Hall Master Xing. Chu Xiangfeng asked, "Hall Master Xing, what do you think we should do?" Hall Master Xing said, "No matter what, you have to get past me first and let me experience the swordsmanship of the Myriad Sword Peak." Elder Chu hurriedly stopped him. "Hall Master Xing, you can't be so rude." Chu Xiangfeng replied, "It's fine. It's a little inappropriate for us to make your faction obey our orders so easily. Since that's the case, I'll spar with Hall Master Xing for a bit. I'm sure that you'll be convinced of our superiority." Situ Liang hurriedly said, "Xiao Chu, Hall Master Xing, since we're all on the same side, let's not go to the practice field. Let's spar in the hall and not harm each other. Is that all right?" The two of them nodded in agreement. Hall Master Xing shouted to the outside, "Bring my weapon over." Not long after, someone brought in a steel spear that was 8 zhang long. It was Hall Master Xing's famous weapon. Hall Master Xing received the spear with one hand and shook it forcefully. The tip of the spear drew a few arcs in the air, and the long body of the spear emitted a woo-woo sound. The members of the Evil Tiger Gang couldn't help but think to themselves, even though Hall Master Xing's figure has become chubby, he hasn't dropped his martial arts. In contrast, the members of the Myriad Sword Peak didn't seem to have noticed the commotion at all. Chu Xiangfeng unsheathed the large sword on his back and walked to the center of the hall with one hand. Hall Master Xing looked at Chu Xiangfeng and muttered in his heart. There were many swordsmen in the pugilistic world, but it was rare for one to use such a large sword. Furthermore, it seemed that the sword was quite heavy, and Chu Xiangfeng was able to carry it with one hand. While Hall Master Xing was deep in thought, Chu Xiangfeng spoke up, "Hall Master Xing, please." Hall Master Xing didn't stand on ceremony and said, "Very well. Xiao Chu, watch my spear." After saying those words, Hall Master Xing leaped forward and thrust his spear toward Chu Xiangfeng's heart. Chu Xiangfeng didn't seem to be in a hurry. He waited until the tip of the spear was right in front of him before taking a step forward and twisting his waist. Still holding his sword with one hand, he lifted it up along with the tip of the spear. Hall Master Xing immediately felt a powerful force coming from the tip of the spear, and his body couldn't help but sway to the side. Thus, he stomped his foot and stabilized himself with a movement technique. Just as he was about to take a breath to regain his balance, he saw Chu Xiangfeng making use of the momentum of the sword to leap into the air. After reaching an extremely high point, he grabbed the hilt of his sword with both hands and swung it down toward Hall Master Xing. Hall Master Xing was shocked. He only knew how to stab and hack with a sword, but who would have thought that someone would actually use it as a saber? Grabbing the tip of the spear with both hands, Hall Master Xing raised his heaven-burning form to meet the attack head-on. In the blink of an eye, the sword and the spear collided, and a loud quang dang sounded. Chu Xiangfeng's sword bounced off the shaft of the Damascus steel spear, and Hall Master Xing was forced to retreat 3 steps. Barely managing to stabilize himself, Hall Master Xing saw Chu Xiangfeng swinging his sword once more, making use of the momentum from the rebound to slash at him once more. Hall Master Xing couldn't help but feel bitter. There was no time for him to change his stance, so he could only raise his heaven-burning form to meet the attack head-on. However, with another quang dang, Chu Xiangfeng's sword bounced off the shaft of the Damascus steel spear. This time, however, Chu Xiangfeng didn't follow up with another move. Instead, he stood there leisurely with the tip of his sword pointed toward the ground as he stared at Hall Master Xing. On the other hand, Hall Master Xing was forced to retreat 4 steps. This time, he wasn't able to hold onto the Damascus steel spear anymore. His legs went soft, and he fell to the ground. Unable to hold on to the Damascus steel spear in his hands anymore, he tossed it aside. When Hall Master Xing finally stood back up, he realized that the webbing between his thumb and forefinger had been torn. A wave of fear welled up in his heart as he muttered, "I wonder how much strength is hidden in that skinny body of his. What a godly strength. It's fortunate that it was a sparring session, or else I would have been killed by the other party's attack." Seeing the ashen expression on Hall Master Xing's face, Chu Xiangfeng clasped his fist and said, "I admit it." Hall Master Xing returned the gesture and said, "I'm impressed." Chapter 40. The exchange between the two could not be said to have happened in an instant, but it had only taken a few breaths of time for victory and defeat to be decided. This caused the jaws of the evil Tiger Gang members to drop to the ground. On the other hand, the 6 people from the 10,000 Swords Peak had normal expressions. From her point of view, this was completely normal. Hall Master Xing sat on the chair with an ashen face, as if he had not yet recovered from the shock. Situ Liang and the others did not go up to comfort him. Their minds were also quickly turning. They originally felt that they had no choice but to accept the 10,000 Swords Peak sending someone to take over the evil Tiger Gang. But when they saw that it was a youngster, they naturally wanted to give him a show of strength so that he would not look down on the evil Tiger Gang. This way, when the authority of the gang leader was distributed, they would have an advantage. So when Hall Master Xing raised his objection, no one stopped him and instead chose to watch from the side. However, the result was too unexpected. In just 3 moves, Hall Master Xing was defeated. Thinking back to Chu Xiangfeng's 3 moves, the timing of the moves was very clever. Each move was something that Hall Master Xing had no choice but to take on. The positions of the moves were not too tricky and were even wide open. However, the most important thing was the strength of the moves and the power contained in the large sword. It was something that Hall Master Xing could not compare to. It was a great coincidence. If it had been anyone else from the evil Tiger Gang that went up, they would also have had the same result. No wonder the evil Tiger Gang only sent 7 people. These 7 people were equivalent to half of the evil Tiger Gang. Seeing the evil Tiger Gang members' uncertain expressions, Chu Xiangfeng did not give them too much time to think. He held the large sword in his hand and said loudly, "Everyone, if there is anyone else who has objections, please stand up and speak." Situ Liang and the others exchanged glances. Elder Chu stood up and said, "Xiao Chu, please put away your sword. We do not have any objections." Chu Xiangfeng saw Elder Chu speak. so he put his large sword back on his shoulder. However, he did not return to his seat. Instead, he looked at the evil Tiger Gang members and asked again, "Does anyone have any objections to my 10,000 swords peak temporarily taking over the evil Tiger Gang?" Situ Liang and the others all said, "Yes, we will follow the gang leader's orders and listen to 10,000 swords peaks, Xiao Xia Chu." Then Situ Liang invited Chu Xiangfeng to take a seat, saying, "Clan Master Chu, please take a seat. We will listen to Clan Master Chu's orders." Chu Xiangfeng wasn't polite. He walked to a chair in the front of the hall and sat down. He then said to the evil Tiger Gang members, "Everyone, please sit." Thus, everyone sat back down. Chu Xiangfeng said, "Everyone, please do not have any misgivings. I am following my sword master's orders to temporarily take over the evil Tiger Gang. All matters will be handed over to clan leader Situ once she returns. Moreover, before clan leader Situ returns, the matters of the gang will still be handled by Elder Chu, Hall leader Situ, and the others. We will not interfere. We only ask that Hall leader Situ give us an explanation before you do anything." Situ Liang and the others were very puzzled. What was this? Taking over the position of clan leader and not using the clan leader's strength. He did not care about the matters of the gang. Hall Master Xing even looked at his cracked palm in regret. If he knew this would happen, he would not have competed with this person and lost his face for nothing. However, everyone had their own explanations. The evil Tiger Gang was their entire world in their eyes and could not be violated. However, in the eyes of this person, they were nothing more than chicken ribs. This Chu Xiangfeng probably didn't want to come, but because of his master's orders, he decided to not interfere and let them develop on their own. Thinking of this, everyone revealed expressions of relief. Chu Xiangfeng saw that everyone understood his intentions, so he didn't want to stay in the hall for too long. He said, "Then I'll have to trouble everyone with the matters of the evil Tiger Gang in the future. We will temporarily stay in the place arranged for us this afternoon. If there is nothing important, do not disturb our cultivation." After saying this, he cupped his hands and bid farewell to the evil Tiger Gang members. The group of people returned to their living quarters. When they returned to their living quarters, Chu Xiangfeng had everyone enter their own rooms and left one person to guard the door. Looking at the 5 people in the room, Chu Xiangfeng said with satisfaction, "Today, the matters of the evil Tiger Gang have been settled. From today onwards, we will guard this place and wait for the Swordmaster's next orders. 2 junior brothers Wang, you should rest well tonight. Tomorrow morning, you will go to Lu Town and watch over that place. If any Jianghu people appear, immediately inform us." 2 of them cupped their hands and agreed. Afterwards, Chu Xiangfeng ordered the rest of the people, "The rest of you will follow our habits in the 10,000 swords peak and continue to practice martial arts. Do not slack off." Everyone agreed and went their separate ways. Situ Liang and the others were in the hall. After a moment of silence, Elder Chu opened his mouth and asked, "Little Liang, where have you arranged for young hero Chu and the others to stay?" He did not address them as Sect Master Chu. Situ Liang said, "Arrange for them to be in East Room 1 to East Room 7. Elder Chu said, "It's better to let them stay in the VIP rooms." Situ Liang replied, "All right, I will immediately arrange for people to take care of it. At that time, it was because I read the letter that my heart was in a mess. That's why the arrangements were inappropriate." Elder Chu then said, "How about this? Everyone is tired today. Let's go back and rest first. If there is anything else, we can discuss it tomorrow morning. How about that?" Everyone also left. Situ Liang leisurely returned to his own room. The room was not lit up with an oil lamp, so it was completely dark. He walked into the familiar darkness and closed the door tightly. He walked in front of his desk and just stood there. He looked at the moon covered by dark clouds outside the window and did not move for a long time. After a while, he seemed to have sorted out his thoughts. Only then did he light up the oil lamp. The bean-sized flame quickly filled the room with light. Situ Ping picked up a pen and paper and carefully wrote a letter with very small handwriting. Then, he carefully rolled it into a small paper stick and placed it into a metal ring. Following that, He took out 2 empty metal rings and placed 2 small paper sticks into them. Then, he placed the 3 metal rings into his pocket. Only then did he blow out the oil lamp and walk out of the room. After Situ Liang walked out of the room, he did not walk far away. Instead, he walked into a slightly bigger room right next to his room. When he opened this room, he could hear the gulyalu sounds of pigeons. So this was a place to raise carrier pigeons. He walked to the innermost corner with familiarity. From a pile of pigeon cages, he found 3 slightly smaller ones and opened them one by one. He took out the metal rings from his pocket and very skillfully put them on the ankles of the 3 pigeons. Finally, he took the 3 cages and walked to the window. He opened the window and opened one of the cages first. He then released a pigeon. That pigeon flew in the air and circled around a bit before landing on the windowsill. It seemed like it did not want to fly out. However, Situ Liang grabbed the pigeon and threw it into the air again. This time, the pigeon circled around a bit before flying out in one direction. Situ Liang did not immediately release the second pigeon. He waited quietly for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. When he did not hear any movement, he released the second pigeon. After the second pigeon flew away, he released the third pigeon. The 3 carrier pigeons all flew towards the same place. In the pitch-black night, they carried some sort of mysterious mission. Chu Xiangfeng and the others' rooms were quite a bit of distance away from Situ Liang's room. They were in different parts of the hall, so they did not notice anything. The evil tiger gang members were already used to the pigeons flying out, so the sound of the 3 pigeons flying out did not catch anyone's attention. After Situ Liang finished doing all of this, he returned to his own room. This time, he did not light a lamp. Instead, he walked to the side of the Kong bed and slept with his clothes on. Everything in the evil tiger gang fell silent under the moonlit night. Occasionally, there would be a gang member on duty who would walk past unsteadily with sleepy eyes. Everyone had fallen asleep with their own thoughts. In the Zhang family's courtyard in the Guizhuang house, everyone was also sleeping peacefully. Only waves of suppressed coughing could be heard from Grandma's room. Grandma was lying on the Kong bed and using the blanket to tightly cover her mouth. Her ears were turned to the side, but she would occasionally listen in Zhang Xiaohua's direction. Although the moonlight outside the window was bright, the room was still very dark. There was no movement from Zhang Xiaohua's side, but Grandma was worried that she would wake up her beloved grandson and disturb his sweet dreams. However, with her disappointing body, she felt very stuffy in her chest and could not help but cough. She could not walk out of the room, nor did she want to disturb her grandson. So what could she do? What made her feel gratified was that Zhang Xiaohua was sleeping very peacefully. She thought that perhaps she should tell her child's mother to let her live in her relative's wooden hut tomorrow. Only then would she be able to feel at ease. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua seemed to have turned over. Grandma quickly closed her mouth and suppressed the coughing that was already close to her throat. However, how could she suppress this kind of cough? Grandma's throat was itchy and her face was red. When she heard that Zhang Xiaohua was no longer moving, she carefully coughed out. However, because she had suppressed it for a while, the coughing became much more intense. Grandma even felt that some liquid had been coughed out onto the blanket. In the middle of the night, Grandma did not fall asleep. After waiting for the rooster to crow a few times, she felt that it was already dawn. Grandma quickly got up and groped her way out. The small courtyard was still very quiet. Grandma did not hear any other sounds. Presumably, Guisu Fei and Lu Qian had not woken up either. Grandma did not walk to the center of the courtyard. She leaned against the wall outside the room and used a towel to cover her coughing. After the time it took to eat a meal, Grandma heard the door to the central room creak open. Someone came out from inside. Then she heard Guisu Fei's voice. "Mother, why are you up so early? It's cold outside." Guisu Fei walked over and wanted to help Grandma back to the room. However, Grandma refused to go back and said, "I'm always coughing. I'm afraid that I'll wake Xiaohua up." Guisu Fei's eyes immediately turned red and said, "Then, Mother, come to the central room first." She helped Grandma to the central room. At this time, Lu Qian also got up. She was also very surprised to see Guisu Fei supporting Grandma. She quickly opened the door to the central room and let the two in. Listening to Grandma's continuous coughing, she could not help but think, I don't know if this spring water really works. Grandma's condition is getting worse. Chapter 41. A new day had begun, and everyone was busy with their own matters. Grandmother was also sitting in the courtyard, enjoying the rare sunshine. Guosufei saw that the weather was very good, and the sun was shining brightly. She wanted to take out the quilts and mattresses in the house to dry. First, she hung the quilts in her room and Zhang Xiaolong's room to dry. Then, she went to Grandmother's room to tidy up Grandmother's and Zhang Xiaohua's quilts. But after she walked into the room, the family outside heard her cry out. Grandmother's ears were sharp, and she said, What's going on? Guosufei. Then, Guosufei's voice came from the room. It's nothing, Mother. There's a mouse. Zhang Kai, who was fiddling with the farm tools, laughed and said, You're already so old. Why are you still afraid of that little thing? It's a bit funny. When Zhang Xiaohua heard this, he quickly bounced over and said, Mother, where's the mouse? I'll help you. I'm the best at catching mice. But he ran into the room and saw his mother sitting by Grandmother's Kong. She was holding Grandmother's quilt and sobbing softly. When Zhang Xiaohua saw this scene, he carefully walked over and asked his mother in a low voice, What's wrong, Mother? Guosufei sobbed weakly and did not speak. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the quilt in his mother's hand and realized that the top of the quilt was black. Zhang Xiaohua did not understand what was going on and asked his mother, Mother, why are you holding the quilt? Isn't it just dirty? I'll help you wash it, okay? Hearing her son's obedient words, Guosufei was even more sad. She suppressed her sobs and said with a hoarse voice, Xiaohua, this quilt isn't dirty. It's your grandmother who coughed up blood. Zhang Xiaohua felt a buzzing sound in his head. He was in a daze. He quickly asked, Then, is Grandma going to die? Guosufei listened to her son's innocent words, and her heart felt like she had eaten Chinese gold thread. She said, Good son, Mother doesn't know either. Zhang Xiaohua said with a sad face, I don't want Grandmother to die. Guosufei stretched out her arm and pulled her son into her embrace. She stroked her son's hair with her other hand and said, Mother also doesn't want to, but look at Xiaohua. She's almost catching up with Mother. Mother's also old. Grandmother, she will leave us sooner or later. Zhang Xiaohua was about to cry as she said, I don't want to grow taller, Mother. I don't want Grandmother to leave me. Guosufei had already held back her sobs. She hugged her son and sighed softly. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua thought of Lu Qian's words. He asked, Mother, Sister Lu told me that there are immortals who can live forever. If we find them, will Grandma not leave us? Guosufei said, Maybe, Xiaohua. That's what the stories say, but no one has ever seen an immortal before. Zhang Xiaohua said, Then I'll go find the immortals and ask them to save Grandma. Guosufei said lovingly, Good boy. Then she looked at her son. Looking at his clear eyes and anxious expression, she said, No one knows where the immortals are. Where are you going to find them? And it's too late to find them now. Why don't you accompany Grandma and let her hear your voice more? Zhang Xiaohua nodded vigorously when he heard this, as if he really understood. At this time, Zhang Kai shouted outside, Xiaohua, have you killed the mice? Guosufei also shouted, They've all run away. Where are we going to kill them? Then she said to Zhang Xiaohua, Let's go out, but don't cry when we go out. Don't let your grandmother know. Zhang Xiaohua nodded in agreement. Guosufei walked out of the house with the quilt in her arms. Zhang Xiaohua walked behind her with his head down. Guosufei went to dry the quilt. Zhang Xiaohua walked to Grandma and said, Grandma, are you thirsty? Shall I get some water for you? Grandma smiled and said, Yes, I'm a little thirsty. Xiaohua, go get some water for Grandma. Grandma thought for a moment and said, Make streaky pork. Guosufei said strangely, Nyangqin, you don't usually eat such greasy food? Grandma said, I'm hungry today. I want to eat some. Guosufei said, Okay, I'll go to the village entrance to buy some meat later. Zhang Xiaolong immediately said, Nyangqin, I'll go. I should go out more. Guo Sufei agreed. Lu Qian also said, I'll go with you. Don't always carry heavy things with your arms. Be careful not to have problems again. Zhang Xiaolong said with a smile, It's enough to buy 2 caddies of meat. How can I not be able to carry it? Lu Qian smiled and didn't say anything. So the two went out together. Grandma narrowed her eyes and guessed that Zhang Xiaolong and them went out. Then she said to Guo Sufei, Sufei, I want to tell you something. Guo Sufei said, Okay, Nyangqin, wait a moment. I'll get you a cup of water to moisten your throat. Guo Sufei poured another cup of water for Grandma. Then she moved a stool and sat opposite Grandma. She asked Grandma, Nyangqin, what do you want to say? Grandma said, Sufei, did you vomit on my quilt? Guo Sufei's face was shocked. She immediately said, No, Nyangqin, no. It's just a little dirty. I'll wash it. Grandma sighed and said, Ai Sufei, you don't have to hide it from me. I vomited on my own. How can I not know? It's just that I'm not sure. You can ask Xiao Kai and the others to go over and take a look. I can hear it. I know in my heart. Guo Sufei said, Nyangqin, don't think too much. Your cough will definitely get better. Grandma said with a smile, You silly child. Why are you like Xiaohua? You're already 40 or 50 years old. You're still comforting your Nyangqin. Guo Sufei began to wipe her tears again. She cried and said, Nyangqin, Grandma continued, Sufei, you have to be more open-minded. Birth, old age, illness, and death are unavoidable. That year when your father passed away, I was also sad for a long time before I woke up. At that time, I was only sad for myself and didn't care about you. This time, it's my turn. I have to make you sad again. AI, there's no other way. Your father and I worked hard our whole lives and didn't let you live a good life. With Xiao Kai taking care of you, I'm relieved. Xiao Long, Xiao Hu, and Xiao are all good children. After I leave, don't let them miss me too much. Be busy with farm work. I will pray to the gods to protect you all in the underworld. Zhang Xiaohua's heart ached when he heard this. He hugged Grandma and said, Grandma, don't worry. I'll protect Nyangqin well. Grandma stroked Zhang Xiaohua's hair and said kindly, I know that Xiaohua will grow up to be a man and will protect the family. I'm very relieved. Then Grandma said, Sufei, I don't have any wishes in this life. I'm satisfied to see you and Xiao Kai live a comfortable life without quarrels. It's just that before I leave, I don't see Xiao Long get married and hold a great-grandchild. It's a bit regretful. I think Lu Qian is a good child. You must find a way to marry her. That's our family's, Xiao Long's, good fortune. Everyone surrounded their grandmother and listened to her speak. In their sadness, they did not notice that there were 2 people who were walking to the gate of the small courtyard. When the 2 of them heard the 2 words Lu Qian, they stopped in their tracks and listened carefully to what their grandmother was saying in the small courtyard. Guo Sufei continued, Nyangqin, you're right. Lu Qian is a good child. There's nothing to nitpick about her words and actions. Moreover, her appearance and figure are 1 in 100. Being able to marry into our family is because Xiao Long accumulated good karma in his previous life. But Guo Sufei wanted to say something but stopped. She didn't want to disturb her mother's good dream. However, there was a big gap between their family and the Lu family. If she rashly promised her mother now and couldn't fulfill it in the future, wouldn't her mother be unable to rest in peace in the afterlife? Grandma seemed to know what she wanted to say. She patted Guo Sufei's hand and said, Sufei, Lu Qian isn't a child who despises the poor and loves the rich. If she likes our family Xiao Long, she would have already married him. Mr. Lu is educated and reasonable. I think he would agree. You should find time to sound Lu Qian out. If she doesn't have any feelings for our family Xiao Long, then forget it. Don't force her. I heard from Xiaohua that Xiao Long's injury will be healed soon. You should also let her go back quickly. Staying in our family is not good for Lu Qian's reputation. Although we saved her, she has also taken care of our family for so long. Guo Sufei said, Okay, Nyangqin, I'll tell Lu Qian tomorrow and let her go home quickly. Grandma heard this, and a trace of disappointment appeared on her face. At this time, someone ran in from outside and said, Qian is not going home. Chapter 42. The person who came in was Zhang Xiaolong. The two of them stood at the door and listened to the conversation between grandmother and mother. Lu Qian's face was red with embarrassment. Zhang Xiaolong listened and looked at Lu Qian's expression. When he saw grandmother's disappointed expression, he couldn't help but pull Lu Qian's hand and rushed into the courtyard. He said with a happy heart, "Qian Qian won't go home." Lu Qian blushed and wanted to withdraw her hand, but for some reason, she didn't do it. Instead, she obediently followed behind Zhang Xiaolong and ran into the courtyard. As he ran, he thought to himself, "Thank the gods and Buddhas, this layer of window paper has finally been pierced through. Some time ago, I was still worried that if Guosufei asked me again, how should I deal with it? Now, it's all gone because of Zhang Xiaolong's impulsiveness. This Zhang Xiaolong is really my lucky star. It's fate." Everyone looked at the two people who rushed into the courtyard inexplicably. When they stood in front of grandmother, they saw Zhang Xiaolong holding Lu Qian's hand. Their faces immediately showed an understanding expression. So it was like this. Zhang Xiaolong saw everyone's ambiguous gaze and then noticed Lu Qian's soft and smooth hand in his hand. For a moment, he didn't know whether to let go or continue holding it. Guosufei saw her son's embarrassment and quickly asked, "Xiaolong, just now you said that Qian Qian won't go home. Is it Qian Qian's idea?" Zhang Xiaolong pulled a long face and didn't know how to answer. At this time, the little hand in his hand gently scratched his finger. He understood and said happily, "Yes, mother, it was Qian Qian who told me." Everyone was overjoyed. Grandmother was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. Guosufei walked in front of Lu Qian and asked in disbelief, "Qian Qian, this is a lifelong event. You have to think carefully. Don't regret it in the future." Others didn't think too much about it. They knew that Guosufei wanted to confirm Lu Qian's thoughts. Lu Qian was happy in her heart. This family was really simple. This should be the advice of her family, but they said it first. Lu Qian also knew that this time, she couldn't hesitate like last time. She finally nodded slightly, then broke free from Zhang Xiaolong's hand and ran out. Guosufei saw and quickly pushed her son and said, "Why aren't you chasing?" As if awakening from a dream, Zhang Xiaolong said, "Okay." But after taking a few steps, he came back and said, "Father, give me some money. We went out to buy meat and didn't bring any money." Zhang Kai hurriedly took out some silver from his bosom and gave it to Xiaolong. Xiaolong took it and quickly ran out to catch up with Lu Qian, who was obviously waiting for him outside the courtyard. When Grandma heard that Zhang Xiaolong had run far away, she smiled and said, "This child is really fated with Qian Qian. Even without money, he can still turn it into an opportunity. When I heard what you said just now, I thought that there was no chance between him and Qian Qian." Guosufei also said emotionally, "Yeah, last time I asked Qian Qian for her opinion, but she seemed to be unwilling. I didn't know how to ask again. Now it's all settled." Zhang Kai also said happily, "Xiaohua, go to the entrance of the village and get me some wine. Let me be happy too." Zhang Xiaohua said, "Okay." She got up and ran out. When she ran far away, Guosufei asked, "Did you give Xiaohua any money?" Zhang Kai said gloomily, "No, I'll wait for him to come back." In the next few days, the Zhang family was a scene of joy and harmony. Lu Qian would slightly blush when she saw Zhang Xiaolong and deliberately avoid him. Zhang Xiaolong would also be inexplicably at a loss and made a lot of jokes. The family looked at the awkwardness between the two and shared the sweetness of their love. Grandma's expression was also very good, but she was getting thinner day by day. After not seeing her for a few days, she could feel that she had lost a lot of weight. Guosufei was happy for her son and sad for her mother. Others couldn't understand Grandma's situation, but Zhang Xiaohua could feel that Grandma's situation was not good. One day, he couldn't help it and secretly pulled Guosufei and said, "Mother, I want to talk to you about something." Guosufei was very puzzled by her youngest son's actions and said, "What trouble did you get into? Why are you so sneaky?" Zhang Xiaohua said angrily, "Mother, when did I get into trouble for you?" Guosufei touched his head and said with a smile, "Then what's the matter?" Zhang Xiaohua said sadly, "Mother, I can feel that something is floating away from Grandma's body. It floats away a little. Grandma is a little thinner, and I also feel that there is not much of it left on Grandma's body. Guo Sufei said angrily, "You child, what nonsense are you talking about?" Zhang Xiaohua argued. "That's right, Mother, I really feel it. I told Sister Qianqian before, and she believed me." "What did Sister Qianqian say?" Guo Sufei asked curiously. Sister Qianqian said that it's because Grandma loves me the most, and I care about Grandma the most, so I can feel her physical condition. But she said that it's not easy to explain. Anyway, some close relative can know. Zhang Xiaohua answered seriously. When Guo Sufei heard this, she left Zhang Xiaohua and hurried to find Zhang Kai. Zhang Xiaohua saw that his mother cared about what he said and was not like what he thought, so he was very happy and went to accompany Grandma. Guo Sufei saw Zhang Kai and told Zhang Xiaohua's words to Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Kai thought for a moment and said, "I've heard of such things before. What Xiaohua said may be true. It seems that we have to make some preparations first." When Guo Sufei heard this, she could only nod sadly. However, she immediately asked Zhang Kai, "What about Qianqian and Xiaolong's matter?" Firstly, Mother wants to see Xiaolong get married. Secondly, if Mother really goes, then Xiaolong and Qianqian's matter will have to be pushed back. I don't know what will happen. Zhang Kai said, "Why don't we go to Lu Qian's house to propose marriage in a few days? It's best if we can do it before Mother leaves. If not, we can settle this matter first." Guo Sufei also nodded and said, "Then I'll ask Qianqian's opinion first." That night, Guo Sufei told Lu Qian about the marriage proposal. She thought that Lu Qian would refuse like last time, but unexpectedly, although Lu Qian was very shy under the light, she still nodded without hesitation. This made Guo Sufei feel very gratified. She was a good child who could pick up and let go. Knowing that Grandma wanted to see her and Xiaolong's happiness, she no longer had any scruples and made a wise choice. This also made Guo Sufei firmly believe that the daughter-in-law that her whole family fancied was really the best daughter-in-law in the world. The next day, Zhang Kai prepared a gift and took Zhang Xiaohua to Lu Qian's house in Bali Gully to discuss the engagement. Zhang Xiaohua was also very happy. She missed Butcher Lu's streaky pork very much. Bali Gully was some distance away from Guozhuang House. Zhang Kai and Zhang Xiaohua hurried. When they arrived at the village entrance, it was already late in the morning. Zhang Kai's body was really a bit tired after his illness. He sat on a big stone at the village entrance to rest. Zhang Xiaohua was as if nothing had happened. Even her breathing did not change. This made Zhang Kai envious of the young person's body. In fact, the last time Zhang Xiaohua came, she was also panting. Compared to Zhang Kai, she was much better. However, she definitely did not feel that she was not tired at all. After Zhang Kai rested, the two of them got up again. Under Zhang Xiaohua's lead, the two of them came to Mr. Lu's house. Mr. Lu's house was still the same. The door was also open. However, Zhang Xiaohua shouted for a long time, but no one answered. Zhang Xiaohua thought that there was no one in the house. So, she went in with Zhang Kai with the gift. Walking into the courtyard, Zhang Kai saw the picturesque flowers and plants in the courtyard. Although spring had not arrived and there were no flowers blooming, he could still see the exquisiteness of the courtyard and the owner's elegant taste. He could not help but sigh. Only such an environment could raise such an outstanding child like Lu Qian. Of course, he also had expectations in his heart. If his small courtyard could also be like this, he would be satisfied in this life when he was old and could retire in such an environment. While Zhang Kai was looking at the small courtyard, Zhang Xiaohua's eyes went to the side room next to the courtyard. Zhang Xiaohua's logic was very simple. Since the courtyard door was not locked, then he must be at home. And after shouting for a long time and no one answered, then he must be busy with something. What could a scholar be busy with? It was nothing more than writing and drawing. Lu Qian said that there was a study room next to the central room. Perhaps Mr. Lu was in the study room. Sure enough, in the side room on the right, she saw a familiar back. It was Mr. Lu. His back was facing the door and he was writing something on the table. Zhang Xiaohua pulled her father, who was walking towards the central room, and pointed at Mr. Lu's back. Only then did Zhang Kai stop. Turning around, He followed Zhang Xiaohua to the door of the study room. Zhang Xiaohua was about to walk in, but she was stopped by her father. Zhang Kai gestured for her to be quiet and then stopped. Zhang Xiaohua knew what her father meant. He was afraid of disturbing Mr. Liu, so she quietly stood beside her father. The father and son stood at the door of the study room and waited for a while. Mr. Liu was still doing his own thing and had no intention of stopping. Zhang Xiaohua felt a bit bored and was about to say something to her father when she suddenly heard footsteps coming from the courtyard door. The two turned around to see that it was Lu Qian's brother, Lu Kai, who had returned. Lu Kai entered the house and saw two people standing in the courtyard. After careful identification, he discovered that it was Zhang Kai and his son. A smile appeared on his face as he hurried forward to greet them. Looking at his father, who was busy in the study room, he said to Zhang Kai and Lu Qian with embarrassment, "My father is like this. When he is busy with his own things, he throws all of the surrounding matters to the back of his mind. When he is done, he will naturally come out. Uncle, please come to the central room." He then took the gift and politely led Zhang Kai and Lu Qian to the central room and poured tea for them. Zhang Kai and Zhang Xiaohua had walked for almost the entire morning and were really thirsty. Taking the tea, they gulped it down. As they drank, they thought, the taste of his tea really isn't as good as ours. Lu Kai saw that the two had finished drinking tea and rested for a bit before asking, "Uncle, why did you suddenly come to our house today? Didn't Qian come back with you? Is she all right?" Zhang Kai hurriedly said, "Qian didn't come back with us today. She's fine in our house. I'm here today to discuss something with Mr. Liu." Chapter 43. Lu Kai casually asked, "What's the matter?" Zhang Kai smiled and said, "I'll tell Mr. Liu later." Lu Kai also smiled and nodded. He then asked Zhang Kai about Lu Qian, and Zhang Kai answered one by one. Zhang Xiaohua also called to brother Lu and said a lot of good things about Lu Qian. Lu Kai listened with a smile. Lu Kai sat with Zhang Kai for a while. Seeing that it was getting late, he said to Zhang Kai, "Uncle and Xiaohua, please sit here for a while. I don't know when my father will be done. I have to go to Uncle's place to say hello. It's better to go to his place for lunch." Zhang Kai waved his hand and said, "Nephew, you don't have to be so polite. Just eat whatever you want." Lu Kai stood up and said, "That won't do. It's not easy for Uncle to come here. We have to be the hosts. I remember that Xiaohua likes to eat red braised pork. I'll let you eat to your heart's content this afternoon." Zhang Xiaohua stuck out her tongue and said, "Then, thank you, brother Lu." Lu Kai smiled and said, "You sweet-tongued brat." After saying that, he quickly walked out. Only Zhang Kai and Zhang Xiaohua were left waiting in the room. The two drank tea as they waited. After waiting for a while, Mr. Liu still didn't come out. At this time, a loud voice came from outside the door. "Brother Zhang, you're finally here." Zhang Kai and Zhang Xiaohua both smiled. "It must be Butcher Liu." Zhang Kai and Zhang Xiaohua quickly stood up. Just as they walked to the door, they bumped into Butcher Liu, who was walking briskly towards them. Butcher Liu affectionately held Zhang Kai's hand and said, "Brother Zhang, I haven't seen you for a few days. I really missed you. Is your leg okay?" It looks like it's healed." Zhang Kai also smiled and said, "That's right. Thanks to younger brother, my injury has already healed. As a matter of fact, my leg didn't hurt too much when I walked from the Guizhuang house to here this morning." Butcher Liu said, "Heaven helps the worthy. Brother Zhang is an honest man. He will definitely be rewarded. All right, how are your two sons' injuries?" Zhang Kai said, "Little Tiger's injuries are all healed, and Little Dragon is almost there." Butcher Liu said, "That's great. It's going to be spring plowing soon, so we won't have to worry about the family anymore. Let's go inside and talk." Only then did everyone return to their seats. Just as they sat down, before Butcher Liu could even take a sip of water, Mr. Liu also entered the room. Zhang Kai and Zhang Xiaohua hurriedly stood up again and went forward to greet him. Mr. Liu returned the greeting and invited them to sit down. Mr. Liu said apologetically, "Brother Zhang, you've been here for half a day. I was in the middle of painting, so it was rude of me not to welcome you." Zhang Kai hurriedly said, "It's okay. Younger brother was busy with work. We'll just wait in the room. Besides, there's still Lu Kai. He was chatting with us and just left. Younger brother, are you done with your painting? Mr. Lu glanced at Butcher Lu and said, Almost. This fellow's loud voice interrupted my train of thought. Let's continue in the afternoon. Butcher Lu said innocently, I didn't know you were painting. Besides, I was born with a loud voice. If I didn't wake you up, you would have left Brother Zhang hanging here. Mr. Lu said, You're always right. I won't talk about you anymore. Then he said to Zhang Kai, I also have this problem. When I'm writing or painting, I forget about the things around me. It's been like this for a long time, and it can't be changed. Come, please have some tea. After he finished speaking, he picked up his teacup and took a sip. Then he said regretfully, This tea is much worse than Brother Zhang's. I really miss the tea I drank last time. Zhang Kai smiled and said, Then younger brother Lu should go to the Guizhuang house more often. Otherwise, you can move in there and drink it every day. Mr. Lu smiled and said, Many things are easier said than done. The few of them sat and chatted for a while. After asking each other about the situation, Mr. Lu asked, Brother Zhang, why did you come to Bali Valley this time? Zhang Kai said, Younger brother Lu, I came this time because I have something very important to discuss with you. Mr. Lu nodded and said, Elder brother, tell me about it. Zhang Kai continued, Qianqian has stayed in our house for so long. Everyone in our family likes her very much. Also, my eldest son, Zhang Xiaolong, is in love with her. I came this time to discuss with you whether we can become in-laws. After Zhang Kai finished speaking, he stared at Mr. Lu, hoping to see a smile or joy on his face. However, he didn't see any expectant expression. Instead, Mr. Lu was clearly stunned. Then he frowned, as if he wanted to refuse. Butcher Lu, who was beside him, had always been a straightforward person. This time, he didn't interrupt. His gaze moved from Zhang Kai to Mr. Lu, and then from Mr. Lu to Zhang Kai. It was a bit thought-provoking. After a while, Mr. Lu opened his mouth and said, Brother Zhang, you're a straightforward person. I'll get straight to the point with you. Let's say whatever we have to say and not hide anything. What do you think? Zhang Kai naturally agreed. Mr. Lu continued, Before Qianqian's mother passed away, her only wish was for me to find a good husband for Qianqian. These years, many people have come to our house to propose marriage, but I haven't agreed to any of them. First, Qianqian isn't satisfied. Second, I don't think they can bring happiness to Qianqian. Also, I know that Qianqian has liked to read since she was young. Her wish has always been to find a knowledgeable husband. I know that Xiaolong is a good child, and I'm not worried about his character. However, he doesn't seem to be literate. I'm afraid that when he's with Qianqian in the future, their interests won't be the same. Seeing that he was eating so happily, Butcher Lu's wife and Lu Yia were also smiling like flowers. They kept putting delicious food into his bowl and urged him to eat more. Although Zhang Kai didn't have an appetite, seeing his son eating so happily, he was also slightly happy. Mr. Lu beside him would chat with him from time to time. Butcher Lu also frequently raised his cup to him. Lu Kai had already asked his father in private earlier and knew the reason for Zhang Kai's unhappiness. Therefore, he didn't say much at the table and only ate by himself. The meal was quickly finished. Everyone rested at Butcher Lu's house for a while. Zhang Kai and Zhang Xiaohua bid farewell to everyone. Mr. Lu wanted to ask them to stay for a while longer, but seeing that it was already late and that they still had a long way to go, he didn't force them to stay. The group of people sent Zhang Kai and Lu Yia to the village entrance before turning around to leave. At this time, Butcher Lu's family members also knew the purpose of the Zhang family's visit. Lu Yia said to Mr. Lu, Uncle Zhang is right. My elder sister really likes Zhang Xiaolong. She even mentioned it the last time I went over. Mr. Lu sighed and said, A grown girl can't be kept at home. But this matter of living life isn't something that can be solved with just feelings. Chapter 44. On the way back from Baligo, Zhang Kai kept thinking about what Mr. Lu said. I agreed to let Qianqian take care of Xiaolong, because I wanted her to repay my kindness. The hero saves the beauty, and the beauty repays the hero with her body. That is a legendary story. I never thought about it. Now that Xiaolong's injury has recovered, I want to bring Qianqian back in a few days. It's not good for her to always stay at Brother Zhang's place. What could Zhang Kai say? There was a gap between his family and the Lu family. Xiaolong was a farmer. Compared to Lu Qian, a well-educated girl, he was indeed unworthy. These days of getting along, in the eyes of the Zhang family, Lu Qian was a golden phoenix. The Zhang family didn't have a parasol tree, so how could the phoenix fall? Although Lu Qian really liked Zhang Xiaolong and was willing to live with the Zhang family, who knew what it would be like when they really lived together in the future. Rather than being upset in the future, it was better not to be together now. It was a pity for Lu Qian, this good daughter-in-law, and Xiaolong's infatuation. Zhang Kai sighed as he walked. He sighed all the way to the Guozhuang house. His brows didn't loosen. At home, Zhang Xiaolong and the others were naturally waiting, hoping that Zhang Kai could bring back good news. But when they saw Zhang Kai enter the door with a gloomy face, they knew that things didn't go well. Zhang Kai entered the house and sat on the chair. Zhang Xiaolong quickly poured water for him. Zhang Kai drank the water and rested for a while. Then, he told them about what happened at Mr. Lu's house. Everyone was nervous and didn't speak. Guo Sufei asked Zhang Kai, "Do you want to tell Mother about this?" Zhang Kai thought for a while and said, "Don't tell her first. Mother knows that we went to Bali Go. If there is good news, she will be the first to tell. Since we don't tell her, she must know that it's not good news." "All right, where's Lu Qian?" Guo Sufei pointed to the inner room and said, "When she saw you come back, this child was shy and hid first. I'll call her out now and tell her what her father said. Let her pack her things first." Zhang Xiaolong said from the side, "Mother, I'll go call her. I don't think Qianqian will go back. There's no need to pack her things first." Guo Sufei looked lovingly at Zhang Xiaolong, who was in love, and said, "Okay, you go. Maybe Qianqian can persuade her father." Not long after, Lu Qian followed Zhang Xiaolong out of the room. Her face was a little pale. She looked at everyone and didn't say anything. She quietly sat down on a chair in the corner. Everyone also sat down and looked at Lu Qian quietly. Actually, in Lu Qian's heart, she was racking her brains and could not understand what her father meant. Ever since she was young, her father had always followed her wishes and had never gone against her wishes. She had the final say in the matter of transferring her husband. In the past, there were countless people who came to propose marriage, but her father had never expressed his opinion. However, based on her own likes and dislikes, this was indeed strange. She had decided, but her father wanted to oppose it. Could it be that he was afraid that Uncle Zhang would cheat him? However, it shouldn't be. Could it be that he really wanted her brother to get married first and then consider her? Thinking of this, Lu Qian was also troubled. Lu Kai's vision was surprisingly high. He didn't even like the girls in the nearby villages. If she waited for him to get married first, wouldn't she become an old lady? Lu Qian raised her head and looked at everyone's eager eyes. She forced a smile and said, "I don't quite understand what my father means. In a few days, when my father comes to pick me up, I will ask him properly." Then she looked at Zhang Xiaolong and nodded at him. Only then did Zhang Xiaolong reveal a trace of a smile from his face. This night was destined to be a depressing night. Everyone didn't eat well for dinner. They hurriedly ate a little and then cleaned up. When Guo Sufei was delivering food to her grandmother asked if Zhang Kai had brought back good news. Just as Guo Sufei was about to stutter, her grandmother said, "It's okay, Sufei. I know our family situation very well. These children are very outstanding, but our family situation is like this. It's normal for others to dislike us. Let the children leave it to fate. If it's not a family, they will enter the same house. Our daughter-in-law will marry over sooner or later." When Guo Sufei heard this, she was both happy and worried. She was happy because her mother could see more clearly than herself. She was worried because her mother's last wish could not be fulfilled. She was a bit unfilial. She was worried because her mother's last wish could not be fulfilled. After dinner, Everyone was not in the mood to work. They chatted for a while and then went to sleep. Only Zhang Kai and Gui Sufei discussed in low voices in the central room for a long time before returning to their own room. There was no oil lamp in the inner room. Gui Sufei groped around in the dark and got on the comm. She laid there and was still thinking about the things that she discussed with Zhang Kai. At this time, she heard Lu Qian tossing and turning and couldn't sleep well. She asked her, "Are you thinking about your father's words?" "Yes, Auntie," Lu Qian answered vaguely. Gua Sufei said, "Qian Qian, in fact, your father is also good to you. After all, you are still young and haven't experienced many things. Your life experience is also lacking. Your father has his own ideas and hopes that you can live a happy life. We all understand. After all, a family like ours can't give you much. When your father was young, it was because of the family's financial situation that he didn't let your mother take good care of her body. This caused his lifelong regret, so he values this very much. Most importantly, I think he wants to find a scholar for you. He and your brother are both scholars. Naturally, they hope that your husband is also a scholar. You two can recite poems and write couplets. This kind of life is what you should have. As for Xiaolong, he is my own son. Of course, I think that he is very good. However, our family's financial situation was indeed not good back then, so we didn't let him study. This was also forced by life. Who doesn't want their children to be successful? I know, Annie. I now vaguely understand father's intentions, but in my heart, I still feel that reciting poems and being romantic is bliss. You fetch water, and I water the garden. You plow the field, and I weave cloth is also a kind of bliss. The two people in the family have the same heart and love each other. Although they are somewhat poor, they can change it through their own hands. I grew up in the countryside, so I don't have to worry about my mother's health. My body is very good. Although I haven't done farm work since I was young, I believe that if I do, I won't be worse than others. Lu Qian said, very unconvinced. Guo Sufei smiled and said, Qian Qian, you are really a child who doesn't admit defeat. In fact, marriage is often not just a matter between two people. You have to integrate into a new family and adapt to their life. You also have to let them accept you. It is not just your husband who can accept you. Moreover, there are many small things like oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, and other small things in the family. Any small thing will make your life unhappy. Lu Qian said, Andy, I know all about these things. When I was at home, father and brother didn't know how to do housework. I did everything. I believe that I am fully prepared for all of these. And during the time I lived here, I feel that the atmosphere at home is very good. It is very harmonious. I can feel a feeling here that I can enjoy in my home. I feel that I can integrate into this family very well. Her voice became softer and softer, as if she was embarrassed. Also, the most important thing is that I think Xiaolong is very good. He is very good in all aspects. I don't want to lose the opportunity to make my life happy because of family circumstances. In fact, I have hesitated before. I feel that Xiaolong is illiterate and there is nothing to say to me. I also thought that I can teach Xiaolong to read and write. He also agreed. I think that we will live a good life and you won't have to worry. Lu Qian's voice was so low that it could not be heard. Fortunately, it was dark and Lu Qian's face was already red. She was able to say all these words. Guo Sufei was very gratified when she heard this. She also comforted Lu Qian. Qian Qian, today you have said all these. Annie is very happy. You also saw that our family likes you very much. Not only Xiaolong, your uncle, and I also sometimes see you as our daughter-in-law. Xiaohua and Xiaohu also want to call you sister-in-law. We will do our best to marry you. Do you still remember the last time in Lu Town? Didn't that bully compensate us with money? Lu Qian said, Oh yes. If you didn't mention this, I would have almost forgotten. That is not a small sum of money. Guo Sufei said, Just now, I discussed with your uncle. If your father is really poor because our family is poor and doesn't have enough money to let you live a good life, we plan to exchange the banknotes. I believe that this amount will definitely satisfy your father. Lu Qian immediately stopped her. She said, Auntie, this money must not be used now. If the bully has an ambush in Lu Town's bank, then wouldn't we be walking into a trap? If we are not 100% sure, We must not do this. Otherwise, we will not be able to live a normal life, let alone let my father be relieved. Moreover, my father is not a person who only cares about money. He must have other ideas. Everything will wait for him to come. Guo Sufei also said, that's right. I also said that to your uncle. But your uncle seems to have drilled himself into a dead end. He is afraid that your father will take you away, so he thought of this method. Later, when your father comes, we will properly ask him about his thoughts. Anyway, I feel that if Xiaolong does not look for you, he will not take a fancy to other girls. Maybe he will not look for other girls for the rest of his life. Lu Qian smiled and said, Auntie, look at what you were saying. How could I be that good? It is also our fate that I can meet Xiaolong. Guo Sufei said, yes, it is fate. But fate is determined by the heavens. It depends on the person to be able to turn fate into a real family. The heavens do not care about this. We should go to bed early and have enough energy to take care of our family. Lu Qian said, okay, Auntie, you should also go to bed early. Lu Qian told Guo Sufei about her worries. She felt very relaxed and fell asleep in a short while. Guo Sufei heard Lu Qian's light snoring and felt happy. Even if this kind of girl could not be her daughter-in-law, she wanted to wish her happiness. Thinking about it, she also fell asleep. Only in the opposite house, Zhang Kai and Zhang Xiaolong could not fall asleep. They did not know when they fell asleep. Chapter 45. The next morning, the sun still rose. The Zhang family was preparing for the spring plowing. Zhang Xiaolong was obviously absent-minded. He looked at Lu Qian from time to time, but Lu Qian acted as if nothing had happened. Lu Qian's calmness made Zhang Xiaolong's heart more and more uneasy. He finally found a chance to pull Lu Qian to the side and asked her softly, what do you plan to do? Lu Qian also had some intention of teasing him. She smiled and said, what do you mean? Zhang Xiaolong was a little unhappy and said, your father is coming to pick you up. Are you preparing to go home? Lu Qian said, yes, my father is coming to pick me up. Naturally, I want to go back to my own home. Zhang Xiaolong's face was a little pale and said, I knew it. The words you said before were all to comfort me so that my injuries would heal sooner. Now that my injuries are healed, you won't lie to me anymore. You want to go back to your stable home. Our small courtyard probably doesn't have anything to attract you. Lu Qian saw that Zhang Xiaolong was really taking it seriously. She quickly put away her teasing expression and said, Xiaolong, look at what you're saying. Do you think that what I said before was to comfort you? Don't you know what I'm thinking? Zhang Xiaolong was stunned and said, it's not that I don't believe you, but at this juncture, you're so calm, and my heart is so anxious that it's about to burst into flames. Of course, I want to ask you what solution you have. Lu Qian smiled and said, you usually look very smart, but in the end, you've fallen into a cliché. Isn't there a saying, when the water comes, escape through the earth. When the soldiers come, block them? Of course, my father wants me to go back and will come and pick me up. But whether I go back or not, isn't it up to me? Usually, my father goes along with my matters. This time, it's a little unexpected. I think I should wait for my father to come and ask him properly. Once I know the reason, there will naturally be a solution. Why are you in a hurry? Zhang Xiaolong smiled and said, I'm not as confident as you are. Of course, I'm confused because I'm concerned. Moreover, I think that we should take the initiative to talk to your father. It's better than waiting here for your father to find us. Lu Qian looked at Zhang Xiaolong and praised, you are right. If we take the initiative to attack, we will have the initiative in our hands. When my father comes, we will be at a disadvantage. Maybe there will be other changes. Why don't I go home first and see the situation first? Zhang Xiaolong was embarrassed and said, I just had a little idea. I didn't think as deeply as you did. Moreover, I was thinking that I should accompany you. My injuries have already recovered, so walking for half a day shouldn't be a problem. Lu Qian pondered for a moment, and her eyes lit up as she said, your idea is even better. Let's go find my father and see what he's up to. Zhang Xiaolong said worriedly, Qian, what if your father doesn't change his mind and insists that you go back? Lu Qian said slyly, that won't happen. I naturally have a way to deal with my father. He will agree. Zhang Xiaolong was still worried and said, I'm talking about if. What if? Lu Qian said seriously, Brother Xiaolong, you must know my thoughts. There are many things that we haven't said to each other clearly. However, you must believe me. I will accompany you. At the end, her face turned red and her head couldn't help but lower. Zhang Xiaolong gathered his courage and reached out to pull the soft hand in front of him. He said in a low voice, Qian, you are so good. This time, Lu Qian didn't let him pull her. She broke free from his hand and said, You should think about when to go to 8 Mile Groove first. After saying that, she ran away. Zhang Xiaolong looked at Lu Qian's back and savored it for a long time. The uneasiness in his heart had long disappeared. When Zhang Xiaolong returned to everyone's sight, the horn of war had already sounded in his heart. He walked in front of Zhang Kai and said, Father, Lu Qian's father didn't say when to pick her up. Zhang Kai looked at Zhang Xiaolong and said, That's right. He just said in a few days. He didn't say a specific date. Zhang Xiaolong said, It's like this. Father, I want to go to 8 Mile Groove with Lu Qian and have a good talk with Lu Qian's father. When Zhang Kai heard this, he was stunned. He frowned and said, Is this your idea or Lu Qian's idea? Zhang Xiaolong said, It's my idea. I also discussed it with Lu Qian just now. She also agreed. Zhang Kai's frown immediately loosened. He smiled and said, Good boy. You have a way. When father was young, he didn't have such courage. Not bad, While laughing, Guosufei walked over and asked, Child's father, what's so funny? Zhang Kai said, Our son is promising. He knows to find a wife for himself. Guosufei didn't quite understand what he meant. Zhang Kai told Guosufei what Zhang Xiaolong said to him just now. Guosufei was also very happy and said, This idea is not bad. When do you and Qian plan to go? Zhang Xiaolong said, Mother, didn't Mr. Lu say that he will be here soon? I think we should hurry before he comes. I think we should go now. Guosufei looked at the sky and said, If we go now, we won't be able to come back today. Why don't we wait until after lunch? I'll go cook with Qian. Sigh, if I don't have Qian's help in the future, I won't be able to cook. Xiaolong, you have to leave Qian behind. Zhang Xiaolong smiled and said, Okay, mother. I will definitely. Lunch was naturally finished in a hurry. Zhang Xiaolong and Lu Qian packed up and prepared to go. At this time, Zhang Xiaohu said, Big brother, it doesn't seem safe for the two of you to go out. Why don't I go with you? Moreover, Zhang Kai also said, Xiaolong, you should also bring something. It's not good to go empty-handed. Zhang Xiaolong said, I know, father. When we reach the village in trance, I'll go buy some. When Lu Qian heard that Zhang Xiaohu wanted to go, her eyes lit up. She said to Zhang Xiaolong, Let Xiaohu go with us. It's safer for the three of us to go. Moreover, you don't have to buy anything. It's good enough to bring some of the well water at home to my father. Zhang Xiaolong slapped his forehead and said, Look at me. Your father loves this water the most. I forgot. Zhang Xiaohua jumped up from the chair and said, I'll go pick some fresh ones. You guys prepare something to hold the water. When Xiaohua returned with the well water, Zhang Xiaolong borrowed a sealed bottle from a neighbor and filled it to the brim with well water. This bottle of water was naturally taken by Zhang Xiao. Thus, the three of them went on their way. There were 2 roads from the Guozhuang house to Baligo. One was along the river, through a bamboo forest, and then climbing a few hills, passing by the side of a few villages. The other was on a small bridge. There was a large road in the direction of Benlu town. After walking to a village, it was still a large road that led to Baligo. The small road was rugged and not easy to walk on, but it was short. Although the large road was easy to walk on, it was 2 to 3 times the distance of the small road. Zhang Xiaolong and the others naturally chose the small road. Now that it was spring, the river water had long been frozen. The gurgling stream flowed slowly, and the sound was indescribably pleasant to the ears. The birds were also active, chirping. Along with the sound of the water, it made their footsteps particularly relaxed. Zhang Xiaolong and Lu Qian walked in front hand in hand. It seemed that they no longer had the scruples of being at home. They wantonly enjoyed the feeling of each other's hands. They looked around and admired the spring scenery while talking nonstop. Zhang Xiaohu, who was some distance away from them, fell behind. He held the bottle of water in his hand and smiled as he looked at his elder brother and future sister-in-law. In his heart, other than envy, there was also a trace of expectation. He was looking forward to a beautiful encounter in Baligo. Zhang Xiaolong's heart was smeared with honey. He hoped that this long journey would never end, so that he could enjoy the happiness of this afternoon forever. He had never felt that walking was such a happy thing, nor had he felt that the mountain scenery that he had been tired of looking at on weekdays was so beautiful. He had never thought that Lu Qian's words were better than the sound of the river and the birds. He had never thought that Baligo was so close to him from the Guizhuang house. It seemed that they had arrived at the place as soon as they started walking. When Lu Qian pulled back her hand, he was still dizzy and asked why. It was not until Lu Qian shyly said that Baligo, where she grew up, was in front that he realized that the journey of walking in the clouds had come to an end. Lu Qian led Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu into the village. From time to time, people who knew Lu Qian greeted Lu Qian. Some girls and aunties even stared at Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu's faces unscrupulously and scanned their bodies. Not only did Lu Qian's face turn red, but Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu were also at a loss. After all, they did not ask who Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu were. Naturally, Lu Qian could not explain. Although she wanted to let them think what they wanted, she did not want them to think blindly like this. However, her house was still very far from the village entrance. Presumably, not long after she reached home, the topic of Zhang Xiaolong would probably spread throughout the village. When Lu Qian brought Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu home, it was very coincidental that Mr. Lu and Butcher Lu were drinking tea and talking in the small courtyard. As soon as Lu Qian entered the door, she saw Mr. Lu sitting on a small stool under the eaves. He was holding a teapot and pouring tea into a teacup. Butcher Lu, on the other hand, was holding a wine gourd that he usually used. From time to time, he would bring it to his mouth and take a sip. When Lu Qian saw her father, the rims of her eyes seemed to turn red. She shouted, "Father!" and ran over. Mr. Lu was also stunned. When he saw that Lu Qian had returned, he was naturally happy in his heart. He put down the teapot and stood up to welcome her. Although it had not been long since they last met at the Zhang family, this time, Lu Qian had returned home. The feeling was naturally different. Lu Qian threw herself into her father's embrace and hugged her father's arm like a child. Mr. Lu lovingly stroked her hair and only said, "You're back. It's good that you're back." Chapter 46. The splint on Zhang Xiaolong's arm had already been removed, but it was still secured with a belt and other things. He placed it in front of his chest, while his other hand hung naturally by his side. He stood not far behind Lu Qian, watching the touching scene of Mr. Lu and his daughter reuniting. His relationship with his father and mother was very good, but he had never experienced separation, so he naturally didn't know how it felt. Now that he saw his beloved act like this, he felt gratified for her and knew that his decision this time was probably the right one. Zhang Xiaohu stood beside Zhang Xiaolong, still holding the bottle of water in his hand, but his eyes were looking around the courtyard as if he was looking for someone. Mr. Lu lovingly stroked his daughter's hair, and his eyes also looked over Lu Qian's head toward Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu. He smiled and nodded at them, and his hand also moved away from his daughter's head, waving slightly at them to express his apology. Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiao naturally also nodded in acknowledgement and waited at the side. When Butcher Lu saw that Lu Qian had returned and Mr. Lu had gone up to greet her, he didn't get up and continued to drink his little wine. When he finished his wine, he saw the two brothers standing at the door, so he stood up and said with a smile, "I was wondering who sent Xian back, so it's our two great heroes. Come in quickly, have a few drinks with Uncle." Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu smiled and walked towards the square table under the eaves. Lu Qian, who was being intimate with her father, heard the two words drink and raised her head, saying to Butcher Lu, second uncle, Xiaolong's injuries haven't completely healed, so he can't drink for the time being. If you want to drink, look for Xiao. Butcher Lu said loudly. You little girl, now you're siding with an outsider. Lu Qian said sweetly, second uncle. Butcher Lu said, all right, don't call me that. I know, I don't usually see you call me second uncle. Mr. Lu, on the other hand, looked thoughtfully at the farmer boy who was walking towards him. His youthful face was full of vitality. He did not look like a yes man like the other farmers, nor did he look as careful as Zhang Kai. His eyes seemed to be very bright. The clothes on his body were very shabby, but they were very clean. They fit him very well. His footsteps were also very steady. Each step left a footprint, which made people feel very at ease. Mr. Lu naturally knew why Lu Qian brought Zhang Xiaolong back. Although he strongly disapproved of this marriage, he did admire Zhang Xiaolong. At this time, Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu also walked in front of Mr. Lu and respectfully bowed to him. Mr. Lu didn't stand on ceremony this time. He simply gestured and said, You've come a long way. Seeing that it's getting late, it's not likely that you'll be able to return to the Guizhuang house today. Why don't you stay at my place for the night? You can go accompany my second brother first. I'll go after talking with Qian. After the two brothers agreed, they walked under the eaves and each picked up a stool to sit down. They chatted with Butcher Lu. Mr. Lu then said to Lu Qian, Qian, let's go to the study to talk. Lu Qian let go of her father's arm and said, Father, you go first. I'll go make some tea for you. Xiaolong, and I specially brought this from the Guizhuang house. Do you want to drink it? Mr. Lu didn't say anything. He helplessly shook his head and smiled as he went back to the study. Lu Qian walked under the eaves and took the bottle of water from Zhang Xiaohu's side. She glanced at Zhang Xiaolong and said, You two go chat with second uncle first. I'll go boil some water in the kitchen. I'll also make some side dishes and snacks while I'm at it. After walking for the whole afternoon, you must be hungry. Lu Qian blushed and said, Father, you're asking the obvious. If I didn't come back, wouldn't you be coming to pick me up in a few days? Mr. Lu sighed and placed the teacup on the table, saying, Qian, ever since you were young, your father has always let you have your way. I haven't interfered much with you. This time, your father didn't listen to you. You should know your father's painstaking efforts. Lu Qian thought for a while and said, I'm guessing that father's intention is that you're afraid that I'll suffer in the Zhang family and have to do farm work every day. You're also afraid that Zhang Xiaolong is a rough village man. You're afraid that my life won't be as good as it was at home? Mr. Lu nodded and said, This life isn't a problem of one person. It's the life of two people. If one person likes to study and the other wants to do farm work, then the direction of life will diverge. Naturally, life will be boring and won't last long. Moreover, the Zhang family is very poor. You should know in the time you've been there that it won't be as comfortable as living in 8 Mile Valley. Lu Qian also nodded and said, Father, you're right. I considered all of this. I've even told Zhang Xiaolong's mother. She said something similar to what you said. She also hoped that I would consider it carefully. Mr. Lu asked curiously, She really said that? Lu Qian said, Of course. I didn't think that auntie, a village woman who doesn't know many words, would be so reasonable. Mr. Lu sighed and said, That's really rare. No wonder she could raise such a magnanimous child. Following that, Mr. Lu said, Actually, you can't understand all of this. It's just that we've experienced it before. With your personality, even if we say it, it might not be useful. Only when you hit a wall will you understand father's painstaking efforts. However, although your mother's matter happened a long time ago, it's still vivid in my mind. If I had the ability, I wouldn't have let your mother suffer and leave us early. Therefore, I don't want your mother's tragedy to happen to you again. Lu Qian naturally had a card up her sleeve and said, Father, perhaps you're too stubborn on this point. If you had the ability, would you still be the current you? Can Yang Qin be happy with you? If she wasn't happy, then what's the value of living for a lifetime? But mother respects you, loves you, and has only been with you for a short 10 years. However, the happiness that she has is something that others can't get in their lifetime. Tell me, which is her choice? Lu Qian continued. Father, actually, I've always thought that life's fate has already been arranged. Whether you're sad or happy, it's all a kind of life. A person's life is a kind of trajectory. When all sorts of trajectories are intertwined together, it's the whole life. Mother's trajectory is destined to involve you, and your trajectory is also destined to lead you in Mother's happiness. You've always blamed Mother's death on your ability, saying that you couldn't take good care of her. In fact, that's not the case. From the moment Mother met you, our family's life had already been created. Mother's happiness and ending was already predetermined. Any change would be futile. If Father was obsessed with politics back then, you would naturally have neglected Mother. Mother wouldn't have left us early, but would she have lived happily? Seeing Mr. Lu fall in a deep thought, Lu Qian continued. Actually, I've always been thinking about my meeting with Zhang Xiaolong. I've told you before that from the moment I met Zhang Xiaolong in the textile shop, our trajectories have been intertwined. I'm sure Father knows about the things that happened during that time. There's no need for me to go into detail. I can only use the word fate to describe my relationship with Zhang Xiaolong. Also, there's a very important thing that Father doesn't know about. Mr. Lu was stunned and said, What is it? Lu Qian said mysteriously, Father, do you think that the water in this Guizhuang house is especially delicious? Mr. Lu said, Yes, so what? Then, Lu Qian told Mr. Lu about her grandmother's illness and how she went to Lu Town to see a doctor. Mr. Lu was clearly shocked and asked, Are you sure that this is the effect of the well water? Lu Qian said, Of course. Just look at Zhang Xiaolong's arm and you'll know. Have you ever seen a broken arm heal so quickly in a short month? Also, the last time you came to see me, she said that my skin is much better than before. I can feel it myself now. Mr. Lu frowned and didn't ask any more questions. Lu Qian then continued, Father, think about it. This well water is a priceless treasure. Your body has always been very weak. Ever since Mother passed away, you haven't been well. To be able to make you healthy has always been my wish. Now that we have this well water, living a long life is no longer an extravagant hope. This well water was dug out by the Zhang family and belongs to the Zhang family. Don't you think that this is a chance given to me and Xiaolong by the heavens? Also, Big Brother hasn't gotten married yet. I don't know if my future sister-in-law will be virtuous. If I move to the Zhang family and you move to the Guizhuang house on one hand, I can serve Father, and on the other, Father can enjoy the blessings of the heavens. Wouldn't it be the best of both worlds? Would it solve all the problems in my heart? Chapter 47. Mr. Lu then said, Qin Xian, whether or not Father drinks this well water, whether or not his health is good, whether or not he can live a long life are all small problems. You being able to live a peaceful and happy life is what Father wants to see the most. Lu Qian said, Father, then if I can live a peaceful life and at the same time take care of you and ensure your health, then why wouldn't I do that? Moreover, marriage is a gamble. You may be able to see a person's nature with a single glance, or you may never be able to see it. You can only judge whether someone is good or bad based on their appearance. If you gamble correctly, then happiness is yours. Those so-called matching families are just people's interpretation of those successful marriages in the past. How many unhappy lives in this world are the result of matching families? Liang Shanbua and Zhu Yingtai's beauty is only a legend. Perhaps when it comes to real life, they may not be as loving as father and mother. Although Zhang Xiaolong does not have Liang Shanbua's style and elegance, he surpasses Liang Shanbua in his steadiness and kindness. Those scholars in the past, I can only see their surface and it is difficult to go deeper. As for Xiaolong, I can see his nature with a single glance. I am willing to continue my fate with him. Mr. Lu was stunned hearing this and said, Qin Qian, teaching you to read and read since you were young, I don't know if it is correct. You have read so many books that I have no words to refute you. Lu Qian smiled and said, Father, I am just feeling a little. Compared to your knowledge, I am still far from it. Mr. Lu smiled and did not speak anymore. However, Lu Qian continued, actually, there's one thing that moves my heart in the Zhang family. It is their family's harmony and the tolerance of the elders. Marriage is not only a world for two people, but it is also a process of integration with Xiaolong's family. During the time I was in the Zhang family, I received a lot of care from the two elders, including Xiaolong's grandmother. I feel that they are very reasonable and will always think of others first. Only this kind of family can let the younger generation obtain happiness and truly live a good life. I think that I can also have the same freedom and happiness in the Zhang family as in 8 Mile Valley. Sometimes I can even feel that I may be more comfortable than in 8 Mile Valley. At this point, Mr. Lu laughed again and scolded, "You little girl, you haven't even left yet and you're already talking bad about Bali Valley. No wonder people say that girls side with outsiders." Lu Qian sweetly said, "Father, that's not what I meant. I'm just saying that I can get things that I can't get in 8 Mile Valley. Maybe it's because there's no mother at home." Mr. Lu was dejected and said, "That's right, Qian. It's been hard on you. You didn't have a mother to dote on you since you were young. Your second aunt is also a big, uncouth woman. She doesn't even care about Yaya, let alone you. This is also father's mistake." Lu Qian comforted Mr. Lu and said, "Father, don't be sad. I've already grown up. Perhaps in the future, there will be someone who will dote on me. You always say that second aunt is uncouth, but Xiaolong's mother is also uncouth. However, she is especially meticulous and has a gentle personality. The difference between people is so huge. Of course, I'm not saying that second aunt is not good. Isn't second uncle's family managed by second aunt? Maybe it's because I hit it off with Xiaolong's mother. Right now, I feel like a mother." Mr. Lu nodded and said, "You've always been competitive. It's rare for someone to be so subdued by you. It seems like this is also one of the reasons why you chose Zhang Xiaolong." Lu Qian blushed and nodded. Mr. Lu let out a long sigh and said, "This Zhang Xiaolong was able to meet you and save you. This can be considered a heavenly opportunity. This Zhang family was able to dig out immortal water from the well. This can be considered a geographical advantage. The Zhang family, and you hit it off very well. This can be considered a harmonious relationship." Lu Qian happily said, "Then, Father, does this mean that you agree?" Mr. Lu smiled and said, "You've already stayed in the Zhang family for more than a month. Those who know say that you're benevolent and righteous. For those who don't know, they don't know what to say. For you to have such an ending is also very good. It's the best of both worlds. Moreover, with your personality, if I don't agree, will you imitate Chui Yingying?" Lu Qian charmingly smiled and said, "Father isn't that bigoted old Madam Chui." Mr. Lu said, "Don't be so talkative. When I saw that you came back, I knew that you were fully prepared to persuade your father. Otherwise, you would have already hidden in the Zhang family and refused to see me." Lu Qian said, "How could I, Father? Didn't your daughter take the initiative to come back?" The father and daughter chatted for a while. Mr. Lu said, "It's already late. Quickly go and arrange dinner. Let your second aunt and you come over to help. Today, we'll have a reunion. All right, you should also quickly go and tell Xiaolong. I'm sure he's feeling uneasy right now." When Lu Qian heard this, she happily said, "Then, Father, come with me. You guys can also chat and get to know each other better." Soon after, Lu Qian helped her father out of the study. The sky outside was already dark. An oil lamp had already been prepared under the eaves. Butcher Lu and the other two were still sitting and talking. There was a person sitting with his back facing them. It was Lu Qian's eldest brother, Lu Kai. Zhang Xiaolong's eyes had already swept across the study door countless times. He didn't hear what Butcher Lu and the others said. He was only worried about himself and Lu Qian. At this moment, when Lu Qian and Mr. Lu came out, he was naturally the first to see them. He subconsciously stood up. When Lu Qian saw Zhang Xiaolong stand up, she gave him a sweet smile and nodded slightly. Zhang Xiaolong knew that it was a success, and he couldn't help but be overjoyed. At this time, Lu Kai also noticed the movement behind him. He quickly turned around and saw his sister whom he hadn't seen for a long time. He was naturally happy. He got up and ran over. When he was in front of her, he carefully sized her up. He couldn't help but ask Lu Qian, Qian, I haven't seen you in so long. Why do I feel that you're completely different from before? Not only have you become fairer, your eyes have also become much clearer. Your temperament has also become much more elegant. How is this caring for other people's injuries? When Lu Qian heard this, she happily looked at Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu also understood and nodded. Lu Qian said, How is that possible? Big brother, it's just that I haven't seen you in a long time. After a few days, you'll find that your sister is no different from before. Lu Kai suddenly understood and said, That makes sense. A scholar who has been away for 3 days will have a whole new level of respect. Perhaps this is the reason. Lu Qian skipped this topic and said, Big brother, how are we going to eat tonight? Lu Kai jumped up and said, I was talking to second uncle and Zhang Xiaohu just now and forgot about this matter. I'll go to second aunt's house to inform them. Lu Qian stopped him and said, Father wants us to eat at our house. It can be considered a reunion. I'll go to the village entrance to buy some things. You go to second aunt's house and see what they're cooking. Bring it together and ask them to come over and help. Lu Kai agreed and hurried off. Lu Qian wanted to go out to buy things, and Zhang Xiaolong naturally wanted to go with her. However, he was stopped by Mr. Lu. He said, Xiaolong, don't go yet. Come with me to the study room. In the end, Zhang Xiaohu followed Lu Qian to the village entrance, leaving Butcher Lu to drink alone. This guy looked at the busy people and happily drank his wine. He felt that life was really colorful. Zhang Xiaolong was a bit nervous as he followed Mr. Lu into the study room. Lu Qian's eyes just now had already told him that she was satisfied with the result. This future father-in-law seemed to want to show off his power and give him some things. Although he was mentally prepared, he still felt that there was a small person in his heart that kept on pumping water. Mr. Lu entered the study room and had Zhang Xiaolong sit down. However, he did not sit down. He frowned and paced around the study room. After walking around 2 or 3 times, Mr. Lu opened his mouth and said, Xiaolong, you probably know my attitude. Zhang Xiaolong carefully said yes. Mr. Lu continued, Then I won't say much. Actually, I called you over because I want to say something. Zhang Xiaolong respectfully said, Please say it. This little nephew has already engraved it in his heart. Mr. Lu seemed to be very satisfied with Zhang Xiaolong's attitude. He smiled and said, Qin grew up in Bali Gully. Although our family can't be said to be rich, Qin has not suffered much since she was young. She knows very little about farm work. This is different from your family's living environment. In the future, you have to be more tolerant in this area. Zhang Xiaolong followed up and said, You don't have to worry about this. Our family's farmland is small to begin with. Xiaohua's plot of land is also on a hillside. There isn't much farm work. I can't guarantee that I won't let Qin work in the fields. However, I will definitely do the most heavy work. Qin can just do the side work. Mr. Lu said, You're telling the truth. You didn't say anything about not letting Qin work. Actually, Qin isn't a child who can endure hardships. It's just that she wasn't allowed to work in the fields in the past. In the future, when you two live together, you just have to take good care of her. I don't expect you to give her a good life. I just want you two to be harmonious and sweet. Also, you haven't read too many books. In terms of knowledge and experience, there's a large gap between you and Qin. This is your weakness. In the future, it will definitely have an impact on your life. I don't expect you to become a scholar or take 3rd place. I only hope that you can recognize some words and read some good books. When you're together with Qin, you can have common topics to talk about and communicate well. In addition, although acting courageously for a just cause isn't bad, in the future, you won't be alone. Your shoulders bear the safety of your entire family. Whenever you encounter injustice, you must first consider in your heart whether or not it's within your ability to deal with it. Otherwise, if you have regrets, it will be the sorrow of your entire family. Afterwards, Mr. Lu chattered on endlessly. Zhang Xiaolong could only nod his head in agreement. Although he didn't agree with some of the points, he also knew that this future father-in-law was doing it for his own good. He couldn't refute. Just like this, one spoke and one listened. The sky gradually darkened. It felt like he couldn't see anything. Just as Mr. Lu was about to light the lamp, someone knocked on the door of the study. Chapter 48. When Mr. Lu opened the door, it was Lu Qian. Dinner was already prepared outside. Although tonight's dinner was rushed, it was still sumptuous. Most of the dishes were already prepared by Lu Yiye's family. Some of the dishes and desserts made by Lu Qian were also the icing on the cake. It made everyone who had not eaten her cooking for a long time very hungry. During the dinner, the guests and the host were very happy and chatted a lot. Butcher Lu and his family knew Mr. Lu's intention and were also very happy for Lu Qian. They also said a lot of words of blessings. It was just that they were not officially engaged with the Zhang family, so they were still very reserved when they spoke. Everyone was very happy. Only Zhang Xiaohu glanced at Lu Yiye from the corner of his eyes from time to time. Unfortunately, Lu Yiye's attention was not on him, making him inevitably disappointed. After dinner, they chatted for a while. Lu Qian, who had walked for the whole afternoon, was already yawning. Therefore, Lu Kai arranged for Zhang Xiaolong and his brother to rest for the night. Butcher Lu and his family also went home to rest. Early the next morning, Zhang Xiaolong and his brother were going to bid farewell and return to the Guozhuang house. Lu Qian considered that she had not been home for a long time and wanted to stay for a few more days. Moreover, Zhang Xiaolong was going back this time to discuss the engagement with his parents. She was too shy to follow, so she did not go back with him. Mr. Lu specially instructed Zhang Xiaolong to go back and explain his feelings to Zhang Kai. He did not want him to have a knot in his heart because of his previous rejection. He also asked Zhang Xiaolong to pick an auspicious day to settle the engagement. Zhang Xiaolong naturally agreed. Therefore, under Lu Qian's reluctant gaze, the two of them went on their way. The journey here was filled with sweetness, and the journey back was filled with joy. Returning to the Guozhuang house, from afar, one could see the Zhang family standing in the small courtyard through the low walls of the Zhang family. They looked at the entrance of the village from time to time. It was estimated that except for Zhang Xiaohua, the others did not have a good rest last night. Seeing Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu appear in the field of vision, Zhang Xiaohua was the first to jump up and quickly ran out. She ran to Zhang Xiaolong and asked cheerfully, "Big brother, how's the situation? Where's the good news that we were all looking forward to? Why didn't Sister Qianqian come back? Is it?" Zhang Xiaohua didn't dare to continue asking. Before Zhang Xiaolong could open his mouth, Zhang Xiaohu snappily said, "Can't you see that big brother's face is like a peach blossom? He's so happy that he can't close his mouth. You should take the bottle in my hand first. I've been carrying it all the way." Zhang Xiaohua was happy. She didn't take the bottle in Zhang Xiaohu's hand. Instead, she turned and ran home to report to her parents. After receiving the good news, Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei were also very happy. They ran to the entrance of the courtyard to welcome their son. Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu were like heroes as they were escorted into the small courtyard of the Zhang family. After Zhang Xiaolong sat down on the chair, he took the water that Zhang Xiaohua handed over and drank a few mouthfuls. Then, he began to talk about the situation in 8 Mile Valley. Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei listened with joy. They were secretly relieved. When Zhang Xiaolong proudly said that Mr. Lu had apologized and asked the Zhang family to pick an auspicious day for the engagement, the two of them listened with mixed feelings. They were happy that they didn't misjudge Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu was still a good friend that they could have a deep relationship with. Of course, they would be in-laws in the future. He was a good in-law that they could rest assured. They were worried that there should be betrothal gifts for the engagement. With their family situation, this was a problem. If they gave too little, their face didn't matter, but Mr. Lu's family's face would be affected. If they gave too much, they really couldn't afford it. It would add more difficulties to Zhang Xiaolong and Lu Qian's future life. However, these were all to be considered in the future. The key now was that they could celebrate a little. They had to set a date first. Guo Sufei also happily told this good news to her bedridden grandmother. Her grandmother was so happy that her face became ruddy. In the next few days, the Zhang family was immersed in joy. When spring returned to the earth, Zhang Xiaolong's spring had also arrived. Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei were busy with the engagement. Zhang Xiaolong and his brothers were busy with the spring plowing and planting in the fields. The weather was getting warmer day by day. The soil in the fields had already been frozen. The warm spring breeze blew on their faces, reminding them that spring plowing was never too early. The custom of the engagement was also very simple. The father and mother of the man would bring various gifts and prepare the man's birth characters. They would go to the woman's house. The woman would accept the gifts and give the woman's birth characters to the man. Then, the engagement would be completed. Of course, the time of the marriage would be set at that time. Most of the time, they would come again to discuss the marriage in the future and set the time again. In fact, the betrothal gifts were just some gifts of various colors. However, people originally had a competitive mentality. The gifts were compared with each other. At this time, many people directly gave silver. Sometimes it was also called iridescent gold. As a matter of fact, Zhang Kai and his wife were worried about iridescent gold. Zhang Kai thought that Lu Qian was a good daughter-in-law. He should give her more iridescent gold to show that the Zhang family had a precious daughter-in-law. Moreover, Mr. Lu would also have a lot of face. Guo Sufei thought that there should be something to show, but her family's conditions were limited. It couldn't be too precious. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to live before they married her. Zhang Kai actually knew about this situation. He also thought so before, but when it came to the matter, he hesitated. After all, there were still a few hundred taels of silver banknotes hidden at home. With this possibility, of course, he wanted to do things better in his heart. When Zhang Kai talked about the banknotes, Guo Sufei also hesitated. When she talked to Lu Qian before, she also decided to use the banknotes, but she was stopped by Lu Qian. At this time, since there were banknotes, why not use it? Moreover, more than a month had passed, and no one had come to make trouble at home. Presumably, the other party really took this money as compensation. In this way, this money was her family's. Why not use it? The disagreement between the husband and wife seemed to disappear. They were both inclined to use this banknote. Therefore, Guo Sufei took out the banknotes and the token hidden at the bottom of the box. Then, she called Zhang Xiaolong into the inner room. Zhang Xiaolong's injury healed rapidly. In these few days, he didn't need to fix his arm anymore. It was just that his injured arm couldn't carry heavy objects. Zhang Xiaolong entered the inner room and asked, "Father, Mother, what's the matter? I'm preparing to go down to loosen the soil." Guo Sufei said lovingly, "Your arm hasn't recovered yet. It's better to do less work. Let Xiaohu and Xiaohua do more work." Zhang Xiaolong said with a smile, "I've been in bed for a long time this month. My bones feel like they're going to rust. It's really comfortable to move around now. Moreover, Xiaohua is still young and growing. How can I let her do more work?" Zhang Kai said, "I know that you're full of vigor now. We don't intend to stop you, but the future is long. You have to pay more attention to your body." Zhang Xiaolong replied, "I know. Father, what's the matter? It can't be as simple as letting me rest." Guo Sufei said, "Oh, it's like this. Your father and I are preparing to go to Bali in these few days to settle the marriage between you and Qian Qian. However, our family can't come up with a good betrothal gift. We plan to take out the banknotes from last time to exchange for some." After he finished speaking, he placed the two banknotes and the token in front of Zhang Xiaolong. He pointed at the token and said, "Take this thing with you. If something happens during the exchange, take this thing out. It might be useful." Zhang Xiaolong looked at his father and mother's eager faces and the banknotes and tokens in front of him. He sighed and didn't pick them up. He said, "Father, Mother, didn't we say that we won't use these banknotes again?" Zhang Kai smiled bitterly and said, "Yes, that's what we said at the time. However, the situation is stronger than the person. If we don't come up with a good betrothal gift, won't Lu Qian's family lose face?" Zhang Xiaolong said, "Father, if we're talking about good or bad family background, there are many people in this area that are better than us. The number of people who went to the Lu family to propose marriage is even greater. How can we compare? Lu Qian was willing to marry into our family, not because of our family background. The day before yesterday, at the Lu family, Mr. Lu told me a lot. He is very clear about our family situation and didn't mention anything about betrothal gifts. I think we don't have to puff ourselves up at our own cost." Guo Sufei said, "Xiaolong, they didn't mention it, but that doesn't mean they don't care. It's not strange to have too many gifts. We should be prepared." Zhang Xiaolong said, "No, mother. I can't ruin the family just because I want to marry a wife. These banknotes are a disaster. We must not use them." Guo Sufei said, "Your father and I have also discussed this. They haven't come to our door for so long. It should be fine. Moreover, we have this token. They may not dare to do anything to us." Zhang Xiaolong smiled bitterly and said, "Mother, this token was given to us by heroine Su to protect our lives. It only says that if there are bullies who come to find trouble, we can use it to prove that she is here to protect us. Moreover, didn't heroine also say that? Don't touch these banknotes. When the bullies come to our door, we must quickly return them. If they come to our door in the future and we don't have any banknotes to give them, what will we do?" Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei were speechless. In fact, it's not that they don't know these things. They are confused because they are concerned. When it comes to matters concerning their son, it's inevitable that they will be confused. Zhang Xiaolong said again, "The Lu family doesn't admire us for things like money. Moreover, don't we have something more precious than money in our family? If there's a chance in the future, we can just give it to Mr. Lu." Zhang Kai smiled bitterly and said, "What is better than money in our family? How come I don't know?" Zhang Xiaolong smiled mysteriously and said the following words. Chapter 49. Zhang Xiaolong smiled and said, "It's our well water. When I saw Mr. Lu drinking tea that day, he was happier than if we gave him 10 taels of silver. In the future, we can give him more well water. Not only can it satisfy his appetite, but it can also ensure his health. Isn't that better? All right, Father, when you go this time, if you have the chance, tell Mr. Lu to move to the Guizhuang house. I saw that he had this intention last time, but he still had some misgivings. This time, Lu Qian came, so I think he would be willing to come. This way, Lu Qian and I can also take care of him. What do you think?" Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei looked at each other and said, "When I go, I will definitely say these words. How about this? You keep these banknotes and tokens first. If you really need them, you can exchange them." Zhang Xiaolong thought about it and said, "Okay, then I'll keep them first." After he finished speaking, he put the banknotes and tokens into his pocket. Since Zhang Xiaolong didn't agree to use banknotes, the Zhang family's betrothal gifts were much simpler. They just prepared a few simple gifts according to the local customs. Early in the morning, Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei put on new clothes and took the prepared gifts. They set off to Bali to prepare for the most important engagement in Zhang Xiaolong's life. When Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei arrived at Mr. Lu's house, they received a very grand welcome. When they presented the simple betrothal gifts, Mr. Lu didn't care and respectfully accepted them. He didn't look down on them or turn hostile because of the simplicity of the gifts. This made Zhang Kai and his wife feel relieved. There was no one else in the Lu family's hall, only Butcher Lu and other family members. It seemed that Mr. Lu really wasn't the kind of person who liked to be extravagant and formal. There was no sign of Lu Qian in the hall. The whole process of the engagement was simple. Everything was carried out according to the customs of the countryside. Nothing was overdone. When the ceremony came to an end smoothly, it was time for the two parties to discuss the wedding. Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei asked Mr. Lu to make the decision. They only had one request, which was to get married as soon as possible. Because their grandmother's health couldn't wait too long, her last wish was to see her grandson's wedding. Mr. Lu pondered for a long time. He took out the almanac and carefully examined it. His brows were slightly furrowed. Zhang Kai and the others couldn't help but feel anxious. After a while, Mr. Liu raised his head and said, "Look at this date. Recently, the end of this month has been an auspicious day. After that, it will be June. Isn't the end of this month too rushed?" At the end of June, the old lady... Mr. Liu did not finish his sentence. As expected, Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei also frowned. Guo Sufei did not give up and asked, "Are there no good days in between?" Mr. Liu said, "There are many good days in between, but there aren't any that match Xiao Long and Qian Qian's birth characters." Zhang Kai let out a long breath and said, "AI, then, there's only June. There are only a few days until the end of the month. There's no sign of the house for the wedding. It's just a few days. How can we prepare it?" Mr. Liu also nodded and said, "That's the only thing we can do. But what about the old lady?" At this time, a voice came from outside. "Father, I think it's better to set it at the end of this month." Everyone looked and saw that the person who came in was Lu Qian. It turned out that she had been listening outside the entire time. Lu Qian's face was a bit red as she said, "Uncle, Auntie, seeing Xiao Long's wedding is grandmother's last wish. As the younger generation, we should satisfy her. Actually, the simplicity of the wedding is also up to us. There's no need for overly complicated ceremonies. It's also not realistic for us to hold a grand wedding. I think you don't need to buy a new house for the time being. Let's just find a place first. Moreover, Father, aren't you also planning to move to the Guizhuang house? Take this opportunity and find a place next to the Zhang family's courtyard. Build a few houses and surround it with a courtyard wall. Wouldn't that be a home? When this courtyard is ready, you can move there. Xiao Long and I will also move there. We can take care of you on one hand, and we can also take care of Uncle and the others on the other. What do you think?" Lu Qian's idea seemed very unimaginable, but after careful consideration, it was still very feasible. Grandmother's health should not last until June. When the old lady passed away, this morning's ceremony was likely to delay the wedding. The old lady was eager to see her grandson's wedding, so this wedding should be held at the end of February. With the Zhang family's family background, it was not realistic to hold a large-scale wedding. It was also very easy to prepare a simple wedding. It was not a big problem to ask for help from familiar people in the village for a few days. The most difficult problem was the new house. It was supposed to be a new house for the newly married couple. If they started preparing now, it was estimated that it could be done in a month. If Mr. Liu also wanted to move over, then he had to build a small courtyard again. This would take a few months. Lu Qian also wanted to take care of her father. Of course, this courtyard had to be built, so it was better to put it together. However, what Zhang Kai was thinking now was that Lu Qian wanted to separate from Xiao Long before she married into the family. She wanted to live with her father. It seemed that she wanted to separate from the family. Could it be that she had other thoughts? However, after that, Zhang Kai denied this idea. What did his family have that Lu Qian coveted? It was nothing more than that well. Lu Qian persuaded her father to go there because she wanted to consider her father's health. This was filial piety. Xiao Long and Lu Qian would live alone. To be honest, it was a matter of time. There were 3 sons in the family. How could they not separate from the family? It seemed too early to mention it at this time, but after thinking about it carefully, it was still appropriate. At least, it would let others see Lu Qian's vision. It would not let Zhang Xiaohu and Zhang Xiaohua have a nod in their hearts. Mr. Liu naturally had no opinion in his heart. He was originally thinking about how to retire. He was a teacher and was respected everywhere. He heard that there was no teacher in the Guizhuang house. He would definitely be popular if he went there. Moreover, there was a daughter to rely on there. He could also protect his daughter. Why not? He was still thinking about how to bring up the matter of moving to Zhang Kai. His daughter brought it up at this time. It was really timely. There were people who objected. That was Butcher Lu's family. Butcher Lu raised his voice and said, "Big brother, why do you want to go to the Guizhuang house? You didn't even discuss it with me. The 2 of us grew up in Bali Valley." Mr. Lu said gently, "Second brother, I'm also thinking about it. Qian Qian is going to marry into the Guizhuang house far away. She is unfamiliar with the place, and there is no one to take care of her. Lu Kai and I are at home alone. There is no woman to take care of us. Luya interrupted and said, Uncle, don't you still have me? Haven't I been helping at home all this time? Mr. Lu said with a smile, Yeah, I know that you are working hard at Uncle's house. But after all, it is not a long-term solution. Look at your sister's engagement. She's about to get married. Are you still far away? Even if you find a husband in Bali Valley, you can't come over every day to look after the house for Uncle. Moreover, Lu Kai also needs to find a wife to live with. This house should be given to him quickly. If I don't force him, who knows when he will find a wife? Lu Kai said with a red face, Father, look at what you are saying. I haven't found a suitable one yet. Mr. Lu glanced at him and said, Then you should look for a good one for me. Strive to settle the matter with your sister this year. We will have a double happiness. Lu Kai did not say anything. Then Mr. Lu said to Butcher Lu, Second brother, although this Guam manor is far, it's actually only half a day's journey. Even if I move there, it'll still be very convenient for me to move around in the future. Moreover, that business of yours as a butcher has nothing to do with my teaching. You and I have a brotherly relationship, so we can just move around every 10 days to half a month. We definitely won't drift apart because of time. In the future, when you're tired of staying in Bali Valley, you can also move in with me. Mr. Lu knew that Butcher Lu was outspoken and could not keep secrets in his heart. Therefore, he did not mention a word about the well water. Of course, if the water was really effective in the future, Mr. Lu would definitely bring Butcher Lu and the others over. Mr. Lu saw that no one had any objections, so he set the date with Zhang Kai. It was the day at the end of February. Then, he discussed the details with Zhang Kai. Lu Qian did not listen in and left. Lu Ye also followed her out. When they arrived at Lu Qian's boudoir, Lu Ye teased, Elder sister, do you think that Xiaolong is in such a hurry to marry over? Lu Qian said, It is not what you think. This Zhang family's grandmother does not have many days left. The last time I was at his house, she was already coughing up blood. The old woman has worked hard all her life. I think we should still fulfill her last wish. Moreover, you also know his family situation. Doing things in such a hurry is actually a kind of relief. It does not give me and Xiaolong too much of a burden. My decision is beneficial to both him and me. Livia said, The last time you told me, I also thought about it for a long time. This fate is really strange. You have known each other for less than 2 months, and you are going to eat at the same stove. Now that I think about it, it is really magical. Lu Qian smiled and said, You can do it too. I saw that these few times when Zhang Xiaohu saw you, his eyes could not leave you. I think he also wants to eat at the same stove as you. Lu Ye blushed and said, Elder sister, don't tease me. Last time of the Zhang family, I also told you that I don't have any feelings for this Zhang Xiaohu. Although he did save me, I am only grateful. In your words, there is no fate between us. Moreover, a few days ago, Mr. Zhao from Shui Zhuang sent someone over to propose marriage to his second son, Zhao Yuzhao. I have seen Zhao Yuzhao before. He is also a scholar with a decent appearance. It is only because he has been busy with your matters that father has not agreed for the time being. Once your matters are settled, I estimate that the marriage will be set. When Lu Qian heard this, she was very happy and said, You little girl, you are still hiding this secret in your heart. You only told me today. I have seen this Zhao Yuzhao before. His appearance and knowledge are really good. He is very suitable for you. Yeah, your luck is not bad. Chapter 50. Lu Ye giggled and said, No matter how good your luck is, it can't be compared to your fate. That was given by the heavens. You just wait to slowly enjoy your happiness. I just want to persist in my dream. I wanted to read me poems that I like and write my own poems. When I'm free, I'll look at the small bridge and the flowing water. When night comes, I'll give him incense. Lu Qian said, Yeah, in fact, love is sweet. Life is realistic. I have the same dream as you. Unfortunately, the heavens have arranged Zhang Xiaolong for me. I can only choose my village wife's life. Different people have different ways of living. I hope that we will have our own happy life. Lu Ye said, Sister, I also believe that we will be happy. However, elder sister, have you really decided? I still want to ask you one last time. Have you really decided to marry an illiterate farmer in such a hurry? Decades later, when you look back, won't you regret today's decision? When Lu Qian heard this, she tugged at Lu Yiye and said, "Yeah, there are some things that cannot be decided by reason. Even though there are millions of people who will continue to move forward, perhaps today's decision will lead to a different life for me. Perhaps in a few decades, I will regret today's decision. However, right now, I do not regret it. When you are afraid of the slightest thing and do not know when to advance or retreat, you have lost the right to choose. Life is the combination of many choices. Different choices are different lives. If you and I both make the same choice, then wouldn't there be no joy in life? Although Xiaolong is a farmer, he is not illiterate. He is not a rotten wood that can't be carved. I think that our lives are a process of mutual influence and change. He may not write poems for me, but I can read for him and teach him how to write. We don't have a small bridge and flowing water. Maybe we can have a man plowing and a woman weaving. Although I can't give him incense, how can the bedroom be just drawing eyebrows? I can let him grind ink for me. In short, we will gradually change and make our lives happier." Lu Ye also smiled and said, "Elder sister, your homework was better than mine when you were young, and you read more books than me when you grew up. I can't win against you, but I always feel that you will suffer a lot if you marry into the Zhang family. Why do you want to make yourself uncomfortable?" However, Lu Qian said, You are still a little stubborn. The word happiness is the same for everyone. The happiness of the poor is no different from the happiness of the rich. It doesn't mean that your happiness is better than others just because you are rich. So, when I choose to be poor or rich, I am choosing happiness. There was happiness in suffering, and there was happiness in enjoying. As long as one felt happy, why would one be afraid of suffering? Even if it is pain in the eyes of others, how can you know the sweetness in it? As the saying goes, if you're not a fish, how can you know the happiness of the fish? There's only so much happiness in this world. The more happiness you have, the less happiness others will have. If you feel unhappy every day, then others will have more happiness every day. Instead of sharing your happiness with others, why don't you live happily every day? Lu Ye listened and frowned. She understood something in her heart, but she immediately let go and said, "Elder sister, I am here to persuade you, but what you said made me think differently. However, even if you are right, I do not have the slightest interest in that Zhang Xiaohu." Lu Qian said, "You little girl, I'm just telling you my own thoughts. I am not prepared to be a matchmaker." Not to mention the two sisters quarreling in the room. The two prospective in-laws in the hall had already discussed the specific details. At this time, it was already late. If they rushed back to Guizhuang, they would have to travel at night. Naturally, Mr. Lu would not let them leave like this. Dinner was eaten at Mr. Lu's house. After the engagement, they were now considered a family. This meal was naturally eaten to their heart's content, and both the host and the guest were happy. Early the next morning, when the sky was still hazy, Zhang Kai and Guisufei said goodbye to Mr. Lu and hurried back to the Guizhuang house. There were only a few days until the end of the month. They still had to hurry back to prepare for the wedding. The task was very difficult. When the two elders rushed back to the Guizhuang house and told Zhang Xiaohu the good news, Zhang Xiaohua and Zhang Xiaohua, who were waiting at the side, were so happy that they almost jumped up. Their impression of this future sister-in-law was really good. They did not expect that they would be able to see this sister-in-law in a few days. It was really unexpected. When Grandma heard Lu Qian set the date a few days later, she kept nagging, "Good child, good daughter-in-law." If there was a memorial tablet, she would have burned a few sticks of incense to thank the ancestors for finding such a good granddaughter-in-law. Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei's family had a very good reputation in the Guizhuang house. Moreover, there had never been any big events in the family. This time, for their eldest son to marry a daughter-in-law, the villagers naturally did their best to help. Many people had also seen Lu Qian. Although the Zhang family did not admit the relationship between Lu Qian and the Zhang family before, everyone had a lot of gossip behind their backs. This time, they could marry Lu Qian legitimately, which was also something that everyone expected. However, they did not expect that the time would be so short. Some people even thought in the wrong direction. But when the people with good intentions mentioned grandma, they immediately understood and could not help but give Lu Qian a thumbs up. When the villagers came to congratulate them, they would receive them in the big shed. The new house needed to be prepared. For the time being, they would use the house where the three brothers lived. Zhang Xiaohu was forced to squeeze together with Zhang Xiaohua on the Kong bed. The house in the small courtyard also needed to be slightly repaired. Fortunately, the firewood was good. With the help of the villagers, everything was completed within the scheduled time. On the day of the wedding, the entire small courtyard of the Zhang family was filled with a jubilant atmosphere. Before dawn, the small courtyard of the Zhang family was filled with a hubbub of voices. Many people came and busied themselves with their own things. Some of the women in the village came to help tidy up the tables and chairs and helped to clean up the vegetables. The chef also started a fire and began to prepare the meal. Zhang Xiaolong was also woken up early. After tidying up, he prepared to ride a big horse, bring the bridal sedan chair and the band to Bali Gully to marry Lu Qian. The route of the wedding was naturally not the small path that they usually took. It took longer than usual. Moreover, they had to rush back before noon. Of course, they had to set off through the stars and the moon. When everyone was ready to set off, Guo Sufei found that the best man, Zhang Xiaohua, was missing. She hurriedly asked Zhang Xiaohu. He also felt very strange. In the middle of the night, he heard someone in the courtyard and got up early to help. When he got up, he also called Zhang Xiaohua. It seemed that he did not get up. Zhang Xiaohu hurriedly went back to the room to take a look. Sure enough, Zhang Xiaohua was still sleeping soundly on the Kong. No matter how Zhang Xiaohu called, he did not wake up. In the end, Zhang Xiaohu ruthlessly poured water on him. He even turned over and went back to sleep, leaving everyone at a loss. However, the matter of the best man had been handed over to him yesterday. They could not find anyone else temporarily. Fortunately, there was a sedan chair. Moreover, grandmother also knew that Zhang Xiaohua slept until the sun came out. Everyone carried Zhang Xiaohua into the sedan chair and let him sleep. Now, her sister-in-law had not even sat in the sedan chair, but her brother slept first. In this way, the wedding procession carried Zhang Xiaohua, sleeping in the sedan chair, to Bali Go in the dark. When the procession had traveled more than half the distance, the sky was like a fish belly. When the sun peeked out from the horizon, that ray of sunlight swept over the sedan chair. Only then did Zhang Xiaohua open his eyes. Rubbing his eyes, he found that he was sleeping in an unfamiliar environment. Surprised, he lifted the curtain of the sedan chair. Only then did he realize that he was sleeping in an unfamiliar environment. He stopped the sedan chair, and Zhang Xiaohua came down from the sedan chair. He ran in front of Zhang Xiaolong's horse and hurriedly apologized to his elder brother. Zhang Xiaolong pulled him to ride on the horse and hugged him, saying, "Xiaohua, it's okay. You were sleeping to grow. You didn't delay anything, so why are you apologizing? However, this time I really opened my eyes. How come I didn't know that you could sleep so much that you couldn't even wake up with water?" Zhang Xiaohua blushed and said embarrassedly, "I don't know. Maybe you used to sleep like this before, but I never got up so early." Zhang Xiaolong thought about it and felt that it was true. He and his younger brother had always slept together. In the past, he didn't find anything unusual. Moreover, he never got up so early. Maybe Xiaohua had always been sleeping like this. Anyway, there was nothing wrong with him. He didn't need to get up so early in the future, so he didn't ask anymore. The rest of the journey was not far. With the two brothers chatting and Zhang Xiaolong's excited mood, they quickly finished the journey. The village entrance of Ba Ligo could be seen from afar. Only then did Zhang Xiaolong stop the horse and let the wedding procession rest for a while. Then a special master arranged for people to set off the firecrackers and let the band play music. Zhang Xiaohua also quickly and obediently jumped down from the horse. She took the horse's reins from her elder brother's hand and walked to the front. She led the horse forward slowly. The people of the Liu family were naturally waiting at the village entrance early. When they saw the wedding procession, someone hurried back to report to Mr. Liu. The wedding band also broke the silence of the early morning. The villagers of Baligo were all awakened by this festive sound early in the morning. Before the wedding procession entered the village, many children and villagers stopped them and asked for candy and other things. The Zhang family was naturally prepared. Someone took out the prepared things and scattered them to the crowd. Everyone picked up the candy and dispersed in a hubbub. They let the wedding procession move forward. In a short distance from the village entrance to the Liu family, the wedding procession was stopped several times. However, everyone was very happy and didn't get angry because of this. It was the custom of the countryside. When a family had a happy occasion, everyone wanted to share the joy. The more joy they shared, the bigger the family's happy occasion. The wedding procession couldn't wait to be stopped as much as possible. Chapter 51. When the wedding procession arrived at the Liu family's gate, the sky was already bright. There were already many people waiting at the gate. Zhang Xiaohua led the horse to the front of the crowd before stopping. When Zhang Xiaolong got off the horse, Zhang Xiaohua handed the horse's reins to the Liu family members who came over. Everyone cupped their hands to Zhang Xiaolong and said, "Groom, congratulations, congratulations." Zhang Xiaolong also happily returned everyone's greeting. Then, everyone opened up a path. Zhang Xiaohua looked up and saw a wooden shelf next to the gate. On the shelf, there was a bow. This was the custom of the countryside. The first thing the groom did when he got married was to shoot 3 arrows into the sky at the bride's gate. It meant to drive away all the evil spirits. In the past, when other people were getting married, they had seen this before. However, although Zhang Xiaolong's arm injury was healed, the work in the field was still a problem. How could he draw the bow and shoot arrows? It seemed that this matter could only be done by the best man, Zhang Xiaohua. However, Zhang Xiaohua was only a 12 or 13-year-old child. Letting him draw the bow was too far-fetched. Everyone looked at each other. Zhang Xiaolong thought about it and walked forward, preparing to take the bow. Zhang Xiaohua was anxious. She quickly rushed forward and pulled her brother, saying, "Big brother, your arm just healed. How can you pull this thing? If there is any injury, wouldn't all the previous efforts be wasted? Let me do it." Zhang Xiaolong smiled and said, "It's okay. It's just drawing the bow and shooting. I still have the strength. You're still young. How can you draw the bow and shoot arrows?" Zhang Xiaohua also smiled and said, "Big brother, you're looking down on me. I can work in the field myself. How can I not have the strength? Let me try. If I can't do it, you can do it. We won't lose face, don't you think?" Zhang Xiaolong thought about it and agreed. Anyway, the best man did things for the groom during the wedding. If Xiaohua really couldn't draw the bow, then he could only do it himself. Mr. Liu probably knew that his arm wasn't good enough. The bow on the shelf should be a soft bow that didn't need too much strength to draw. Zhang Xiaohua walked to the shelf and took the big bow from the shelf that was as tall as him. He felt that it was very heavy. He had never used a bow before, so he thought that all bows were very heavy, so he didn't care. Then, he picked up an arrow without an arrowhead from the shelf and put it on the bow. He turned around and asked Zhang Xiaolong, "Big brother, where should I shoot?" Zhang Xiaolong pointed to the sky outside the village and said, "Over there." Zhang Xiaohua agreed and imitated the way he used to look at people. He got into a horse stance and then faced the sky and pulled the bowstring with all his strength. However, the bowstring was very tight. Zhang Xiaohua pulled it about 30% full, and he couldn't pull it anymore. He couldn't help but blush. Normally, he should release his hand and shoot the arrow. But this was his first time shooting an arrow. Moreover, he used to see others pull the bowstring like a full moon, so he thought that it must be completely pulled. So, he took a deep breath and moved his 2 arms. Sure enough, he felt a force coming from his arms. He shouted, and the bow was immediately pulled into a full moon shape. He confidently looked at the morning glow outside the village and released the tight bowstring. The arrow flew out like a meteor with a so sound. Looking at the arrow flying far away, Zhang Xiaohua felt a sense of joy in his heart. Zhang Xiaohua used the same method for the remaining 2 arrows and shot them far away from 8 Mile Gorge. After the 3 arrows were shot, Zhang Xiaohua felt that his arms were sore and numb. He couldn't lift the bow and couldn't put it back on the shelf. His wife said shamefully, "He did tell me, but wasn't it just a toy that you made blindly? I was too lazy to look at it, so I let him take it away." Hunter Zhang immediately scolded, "You prodigal woman, you didn't even take a good look at what you borrowed. He took away our ancestral bow, and you were too lazy to look at it. Moreover, Teacher Liu has always been very good to us. All the children in our village were taught by him. There must be a reason why he specially came to borrow a flexible bow. Look at you now. You gave him a bow that no one has been able to draw for more than 10 years. Aren't you purposely making him lose face? I'll see how I'll deal with you when I come back." After saying that, Hunter Zhang hurriedly ran out in a panic. When he ran to the Liu family's main gate, Zhang Xiaolong and the others had already entered the courtyard. The strong bow that had been passed down from his ancestors was placed on the shelf at the entrance. In his opinion, it must have been thrown there because no one had been able to draw it. At this moment, he just happened to see someone poking his head out from the Liu family's main gate. He said thoughtfully, "Liu-san, tell Teacher Liu that I'm taking this bow and arrow." The person inside responded, "Okay, got it." Hunter Zhang hurriedly took the bow and hugged it to his chest like it was a treasure. He hurriedly left with a guilty look on his face, afraid that someone would stop him and scold him for using a bow that no one had been able to draw. With his mind preoccupied, he did not notice that the 3 arrows without arrowheads that should have been placed on the shelf had all disappeared. At this moment, Zhang Xiaolong, accompanied by Zhang Xiaohua, had already walked to the door of Liu Qian's boudoir. According to the village's rules, if the groom wanted the bride to open the door, he must answer the bride's question. Only when the answer was satisfactory could the groom open the door. In fact, most of the people who asked questions were the bridesmaids and the others. The bride would not make things difficult for her future husband. Zhang Xiaolong was also facing the same problem now. Mr. Liu had always treated people with poetry and literature. Most of the people in this courtyard were also scholars. There was not a single person who knew martial arts. Otherwise, Zhang Xiaohua's shocking 3 arrows would not have gone unnoticed. Although Mr. Liu had told his friends and students in advance that his son-in-law came from a peasant background and they should not make things too difficult for him, to be honest, Mr. Liu's smart and virtuous daughter had more than 1 or 2 people in mind. Today, she was actually married by someone who was not in her circle. There were a few guests who felt indignant in their hearts. However, of course, they could not be very obvious in front of Mr. Liu. There were a few nosy people who were thinking about how to make things difficult for Zhang Xiaolong on the bride's issue. Liu Yiye was, of course, Liu Qian's bridesmaid. This girl had always been a person who was not afraid of trouble. Moreover, she never thought before doing things. Thus, her first question was, let Zhang Xiaolong write a few words to show off his calligraphy. When this question came out, Liu Qian, who was in the boudoir, glared at Liu Yiye and asked, "Whose idea was this? Why didn't you tell me?" Liu Yiye said in a sweet voice, "Sister, it was a group of people outside who said it. It's okay to make brother-in-law lose face now. It's also good to urge him to learn calligraphy properly in the future. What do you think?" Liu Qian smiled bitterly in her heart. "What can I say? Your question has already come out. Can I take it back? Sigh. I just don't know if Xiaolong will blame me in the future." Mr. Liu's face in the hall was also a bit ugly. This was obviously making things difficult for his son-in-law. However, marriage was about liveliness. No matter how much nonsense they made, they could not be blamed. It was bitter to see how Zhang Xiaolong would deal with it. If he really could not do it, he would just write something. It was not a big deal. After all, it was not a big deal anyway. Zhang Xiaolong and his brother's faces were also very strange. What they were afraid of came true. Zhang Xiaolong sighed in his heart. He walked forward and prepared to write a few words to deal with it. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua once again pulled her elder brother's arm and said, "Don't be impatient, elder brother. Let me try. Can you do it?" Zhang Xiaolong was a bit doubtful. Zhang Xiaohua patted his hand and said, "It's still the same words. If I can't do it, you try again." Zhang Xiaohua walked forward and said to everyone, "Everyone, it's still the same old words. My elder brother's arm injury has not healed yet. Let me write this for him." After he finished speaking, he walked in front of the prepared ink and paper. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He raised his head and said, "Everyone, for today's liveliness, we will not use this ink and paper." Everyone asked curiously, "Then what should we use?" Zhang Xiaohua asked, "Is there a ready-made mop?" "Today, I will use the mop to write a few big words for everyone." "Mop? How do you write it?" someone asked curiously. While they were talking, someone had already brought the mop over. Zhang Xiaohua found a basin and poured the ground ink into it. She then placed the mop into the basin and dipped it in. She held the mop with both hands and carefully pondered in her heart. She picked up the mop and wrote 2 big words on the limestone slab in Mr. Liu's courtyard. Misty. These 2 words were written in an ancient style. It was very elegant and full of charm. Zhang Xiaohua wrote it in one go, causing the surrounding people to be stunned. In the hall, Mr. Liu heard the commotion outside and suddenly came out of the hall. When he saw the 2 words on the limestone slab, he did not say anything. He carefully thought about it and was also stunned. Speaking of Misty, these 2 words were originally the words on the token. That day, after Zhang Xiaohua asked someone to recognize it, she had simulated, tasted, and practiced more than once how to write it. Other words, such as Zhang Xiaohua, he would not be able to write it no matter what. However, these 2 words had already been deeply engraved into her heart. Naturally, she could write it at her fingertips. Of course, because she did not have the ability to enter the school, she would definitely be ridiculed if she wrote with a brush. But using a mop to write, she naturally did not have to worry about things like technique. Please add it to your collection. Thank you. Chapter 52. The word misty was written in an ancient style, full of elegance and charm. Zhang Xiaohua wrote it in one go, making the surrounding crowd stunned. Mr. Liu, who was in the hall, heard the clamor outside and suddenly became abnormally quiet. He also came out of the hall, and when he saw the 2 words on the bluestone board, he didn't say anything. He tasted it carefully and was actually stunned. Speaking of the word misty, it was originally the word on the token. That day, after Zhang Xiaohua asked someone to recognize it, he had simulated, tasted, and practiced how to write it more than once in his heart. Other words like Zhang Xiaohua and Zhang Xiaolong were words that he couldn't write no matter how hard he tried. However, these 2 words had been deeply engraved in his heart, so naturally, he could write it at his fingertips. Of course, based on a standard that hadn't entered the school, writing with a brush would definitely be ridiculed by others. Using a mop to write, he naturally didn't have to care about techniques and such. Suddenly writing, it was really shocking. Of course, there were also people who didn't know the value of the word. That Butcher Liu was the first to speak. "Why aren't you saying anything? Is it good or bad? Say something?" These words immediately woke everyone up. Everyone clapped their hands and praised together. "Good words, good words." The meaning is casual. The ancient charm is long, rare, rare, rare. A few people who had ulterior motives couldn't help but praise. They muttered in their hearts, "This Mr. Liu, the younger brother's standard is already so amazing, not to mention the older brother. He even said that he was from a bumpkin background. Isn't he too low-key? If this standard is considered a bumpkin, then what is our standard?" Mr. Liu's gaze also moved from the bluestone board to Zhang Xiaohua. He naturally knew of Zhang Xiaolong's standard, but this Zhang Xiaohua, at such a young age, actually had such standard. He really hit it deeply. He had treated him as a child before, but it seemed like he had eyes but didn't recognize Mount Tai. He had to dig more in the future. Actually, Zhang Xiaolong was also very surprised, but now wasn't the time to be surprised. He still had to face the bridesmaid's second question. Sure enough, the second question was still a literary question. Compose a poem. Zhang Xiaolong, Zhang Xiaohua, Lu Qian, and Mr. Lu broke out in cold sweat. Who was so shameless? Lu Yiye was also very innocent. She said with her big eyes, "It's all the revenge of those disappointed people." Sister, if you want to blame someone, blame your charm. Zhang Xiaohua wanted to step forward again, but she was stopped by Zhang Xiaolong, who said, "Xiaohua, look at Big Brother this time." Zhang Xiaolong lowered his head and pondered, pacing back and forth. Not long after, he raised his head and said to the crowd, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just a man who grows crops in the fields. I can't be compared to all of you. However, I've always believed that everyone in this world has their own role to play in survival. Scholars have their own uses. Farmers have their own uses. No one can be missing. Today, I'll pretend to be cultured and reluctantly compose a poem." After saying that, he raised his voice and said, "I was originally a banished immortal in the heavens, wandering in the mortal world for decades. I was just waiting for the opportunity to meet the hidden dragon and soar into the heavens." This time, the crowd was stunned again. Logically speaking, this poem did not rhyme at all, and the word count was also wrong. However, the concept contained within was very distant, and the momentum was boundless. The crowd did not know how to evaluate it. At this time, Mr. Liu interjected and said, "Nephew, this poem's concept is very good. The momentum is overwhelming. I hope nephew will study hard in the future and reach a higher level." When everyone heard this, they could not help but say, "Mr. Liu, you're still calling him nephew. Shouldn't you change your way of addressing him?" The crowd was in an uproar, and everyone said their own words. This second question was passed. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua gave Zhang Xiaolong a thumbs up. Zhang Xiaolong smiled and used his hand to wipe his forehead. It seemed that he was already sweating. When Zhang Xiaolong once again walked to Lu Qian's boudoir, the third question appeared. If the bride was compared to an object, what would you want it to be? This question was very tricky. Everyone's answer would be different, and no matter how they answered, it could be said to be a very good answer. It was also this kind of question that looked easy, but on the contrary, it was not easy to answer. Many people in the crowd were thinking in their hearts, if they were to answer this question themselves, what would they say? However, this question seemed to be too simple for Zhang Xiaolong. He did not even think and immediately answered, "I hope that Xian Xian is a mirror given to me by the heavens. When I make a mistake, she can remind me and correct me. I hope that Xian Xian is a lotus flower given to me by the heavens. We can be harmonious, respect, and love each other forever. I hope that Xian Xian is a crutch given to me by the heavens. When we're both old, we can support each other and grow old together." Zhang Xiaolong's answer was so simple and straight to the heart. Everyone could not help but sigh in their hearts. Lu Qian indeed had a unique insight and found her true love. Originally, there were some people who were dissatisfied, but at this moment, they also felt Zhang Xiaolong's sincerity towards Lu Qian. They could not help but applaud and cheer. Lu Yiye, who was listening in the room, also had stars in her eyes. She smiled and said to Lu Qian, whose face was red and her eyes were sparkling, "Sister, other people are all sour scholars. This future brother-in-law has not studied for a few days. How can he be so sour? Could it be that sister's few days in the Zhang family can make this Zhang Xiaolong so sour? What kind of distance is that?" Lu Qian scolded, "You're thinking too much." Lu Qian scolded with a smile, "You little girl, you're always thinking in the wrong direction. I didn't think that this little dragon would have such literary talent and accomplishment. I didn't teach him these. I only thought that he had the potential in this area. It seems that I didn't misjudge him. Yeah, why aren't you opening the door?" After that, she put the red veil on her head. Lu Yiye said, "Yes, bride." After that, she opened the door wide. The people outside the room saw the door open and knew that the bride's side had passed. Naturally, there was a burst of cheers. Then, Zhang Xiaolong entered the room. Under the accompaniment of the bridesmaid, Lu Ye, he carefully brought Lu Qian out. They walked into the Lu family's hall together. In the hall, Mr. Lu was already sitting there. Zhang Xiaolong and Lu Qian walked in front of Mr. Lu and knelt down together to kowtow 3 times to the old man. After they finished, Mr. Lu quickly stood up and helped them up. At this time, Lu Qian was already sobbing. She felt the pain of leaving home. It was also because she had gone to other places in the past. In the end, she had to return to her home. No matter where she was, she always had this root in her heart. From today onwards, this was no longer her home. She did not need to think about coming back. She inevitably felt a sense of loss in her heart. Thinking about the place where she grew up and thinking about her mother not being able to see this scene, how could she still control her feelings? Mr. Lu walked in front of Zhang Xiaolong. Zhang Xiaolong quickly called him father-in-law. Mr. Lu looked at Zhang Xiaolong's eyes and put Lu Qian's hand in his hand. He said, "Xiaolong, I'll leave Qian to you. You must remember what you said to me before. Treat her well and don't let her down." Zhang Xiaolong took Lu Qian's hand and said seriously, "Father-in-law, I treat Qian sincerely. In the future, you can look at me. I will definitely not let you down." Then Mr. Lu walked in front of Lu Qian and took her hand. He said, Qian, in the future, you are a member of the Zhang family. You must serve your in-laws well and live a good life with Xiaolong. I don't want to say anything else. I just hope that you can grow old together and live a happy life." Lu Qian cried and said, "I know, father. We will do it." Then Mr. Lu said, "Okay, you should go back quickly. They must still be waiting." After saying this, Zhang Xiaolong took Lu Qian's hand and sent Lu Qian to the bridal sedan that had been waiting for a long time at the door. Then he got on the horse and let Zhang Xiaohua lead the horse. Lu Ye accompanied by the bridal sedan. She led the bridal sedan and walked slowly from the Lu family's gate to the village entrance. Mr. Lu watched from afar as the wedding crowd walked further and further away. He couldn't help but cry. The daughter that he had raised for such a long time was going to be married off in the blink of an eye. Even if she would live with him soon, she would not be the same person at that time. At that time, she would first be the daughter-in-law of the Zhang family. Thinking of this, Mr. Lu couldn't help but think of his deceased wife. It was a pity that she passed away early and couldn't see the scene of his daughter getting married. At this time, Lu Kai also came over. He supported his father and comforted him. "Father, Xiaolong is a very good child. The people of the Zhang family are also very reasonable. Sister won't suffer any grievances when she marries over. Moreover, aren't you moving over to live with them soon? If there is anything, you'll be the first to know." It's not much different from sister living at home with you now. Mr. Lu sighed and nodded. Then he shook his head and turned back to the house. Zhang Xiaolong and the others took the bridal sedan out of the village entrance of Balagu. Looking at the sky, it was already late in the morning. He said to Zhang Xiaohua and Lu Ye, "Looking at the time, it's already late. We have to hurry. Xiaohua, you ride with me." "Yeah, you also sit in the sedan. It's only right for the bridesmaid to sit in the sedan." The two also followed Zhang Xiaolong's arrangement. One rode a horse and the other sat in the sedan. Only then did the wedding procession speed up and prepare to reach the Guizhuang house before noon. When Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohua were dealing with the bride's family, the other people in the wedding procession had already been arranged to eat and drink. Even the horse that Zhang Xiaolong rode had been fed well. After coming out of Balagu, the horse no longer played music. At this time, everyone was full of energy and was ready to hurry. They still walked on the main road back. At this time, there were more people. Everyone was very interested in the wedding procession. Along the way, many people pointed at the wedding procession and commented on Zhang Xiaolong as the groom from time to time. They also guessed the appearance of the bride. It was a pity that the curtains of the bridal sedan were covered. Otherwise, everyone's eyes would look there, hoping to see the beauty of the bride. Chapter 53. The wedding procession hastened their journey, and after walking for a while, they arrived at the main road that led to the Guozhuang house. Zhang Xiaolong looked at the sky and said, "It's still early, and we're already halfway there. There shouldn't be a problem for us to rush back to the Guozhuang house. Let's rest for a while so that we can rush back in one go." Other than Zhang Xiaolong, Zhang Xiaohua, Lu Qian, and Lu Yiye, the rest of the group were all walking. Putting aside the fact that the sedan bearers were already exhausted from carrying people, the band members were also carrying a few kilograms of heavy instruments. They were also very tired from rushing all the way. When they heard the word rest, they immediately walked to the side of the road and sat down on the grass. They poured out water from their gourds or leather pouches to quench their thirst. The sedan was carefully carried by the sedan bearers to a big tree by the side of the road, and the sedan bearers walked away to rest. Zhang Xiaolong also dismounted and walked to the side of the sedan with Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaolong took 2 leather pouches from beside the stirrups and handed one to Zhang Xiaohua for him to drink. He held the other pouch in his hand and walked to the side of the sedan. He said to the person in the sedan, "Qian, you must be thirsty. Do you want to drink some water?" Lu Qian did not speak, but it was the bridesmaid, Lu Yiye, who spoke first. "Elder sister probably isn't thirsty. She's still reminiscing about the twin lotus flowers on one stalk. Why are you thinking about your bride? Isn't I still in this sedan? Why are you asking me if I'm thirsty?" Zhang Xiaolong and Lu Yiye had only met a few times and had heard from Lu Qian that this cousin of his had a straightforward personality. Now that he saw her mocking him, he did not mind and only said, "Isn't she the elder sister? You're the younger sister. Of course I should ask the elder first." Lu Yiye continued, "Oh, I didn't expect brother-in-law to be so quick-witted. Why didn't I see it before? TSK. Elder sister's eyes are really sharp." Then she curled her lips and asked softly, "Elder sister, do you want to drink some water?" Lu Qian's head was still covered with a red veil as she said in a low voice, "I'm not too thirsty, but I still want to drink some to moisten my throat." "If you're thirsty, you can drink first." Lu Yiye said, "All right then, I'll drink it first. I've been busy with your matters since I woke up this morning. I haven't had a single drop of water. Just now, I've talked a lot with them in your room. My mouth is already dry. Wait for me to finish drinking it, then I'll give it to you." After saying that, Lu Yiye lifted the curtain of the bridal sedan chair and walked out. Zhang Xiaolong was standing beside the sedan. When he saw Lu Yiye come out, he quickly handed over the leather bag filled with water. At this time, from the direction of Lu Town, a few people on horses galloped over. The 3 in front were very handsome horses. The 3 people on the horses looked very similar. Their faces were charred black, their eyes were squinted, and they had a lecherous look. They were about 40 years old and wore very bright clothes. The 4 people behind them were ordinary tall horses. The people on the horses were of different height and weight, but they were all dressed in black and had weapons at their waists. Their eyes occasionally wandered around the road, and they seemed to be very careful. These people saw Zhang Xiaolong and his group of people who were listening and resting at the side of the road from afar. They didn't care and hurriedly took a few glances before passing by. Coincidentally, one of the 3 in front was tilting his head and waving his whip when Lu Yiye came out from the bridal sedan chair. She used her hand to take the leather bag handed to her by Zhang Xiaolong and gave Zhang Xiaolong an angry smile. That Lu Yiye was originally round and smooth, and her eyebrows were delicate. Today, she was Lu Qian's bridesmaid, so she dressed up even more beautifully. Zhang Xiaolong didn't think much of this smile, but the person on the horse had a burst of lewd light in his eyes. He couldn't help but let out a "ee" sound. Immediately, he tightened the reins in his hand and gradually slowed down the horse. The 2 people beside him saw him slow down and immediately turned their heads to ask, "Lao Er, what's wrong?" That person said, "Big brother, something wonderful has come. What do you think of the woman beside the bridal sedan chair?" The boss looked up and couldn't help but smack his lips and say, Tisk, she's really not bad. Although she's not an outstanding beauty, she's still a pretty girl from a humble family." Another person followed up and said, "Big brother, these past few days in Lu Town, you've been having a lot of fun. These words are used very well. That second brother said, "Big brother, last year you found a beautiful woman in that Exian manor. You obtained both wealth and beauty and had a fat new year. I, your brother, have seen you make her the wife of your stronghold. My heart itches. Although this Lu Town girl is interesting, she's still a woman of romance. She won't last long. I think this woman isn't bad. Why don't you get her into the stronghold and let her be my concubine?" The boss said, "The deal before the new year was indeed a good deal. I thought it was his family who dug up the jewels from the mountain, and we just took the jewels. Who knew that the woman in his family was so beautiful? I gotta let her go. However, second brother, this place is not far from Lu Town and is on the official road. I'm afraid that our actions will attract the attention of the authorities." Another person said, "Big brother, you worry too much. Although it's not far from Lu Town, there are not many people here. Just a few bumpkins who came to escort the bride don't seem to be from this town. If they rob someone, then so be it. It's not the first time we've done this. After we've done it, we don't have to kill anyone. If we leave our names behind, I'm sure they won't dare to report it to the authorities. Let's hurry back to the village. Even if we catch them, the authorities will know." The second brother said, "Lao Air's words are very reasonable. Big brother, let's do it." The boss looked around and seemed to be hesitating. Lao Air said, "Second brother, the woman in front of the sedan chair is yours. The bride in the sedan chair is mine. Today I'll be the groom." "Ha ha." Lao Air said, "Hee hee, the woman in the sedan chair still doesn't know whether she's fat or thin, beautiful or ugly. I'm not interested. This chick has soft skin and tender flesh. I think she suits me." Lao Air said, "Second brother, you don't know this. If the bride isn't beautiful, why would she choose such a beautiful girl to be her bridesmaid? I think the bride must be more beautiful than her." Lao Air said, "Lao Air is clever. However, if I didn't turn around and see it, how can you be the groom today? Tonight, before you enter the room, you have to toast me 3 big bowls." Lao Air said with a sinister smile, "Same to you. Let's go to the bridal chamber together." The 3 of them talked from afar and looked at the sedan chair from time to time. It seemed that they already had a plan in mind. The 4 people next to them didn't say anything. They surrounded the 3 of them in a circle as if they were used to it. Lao Air saw that the boss was still hesitating and said unhappily, "Big brother, what's there to think about? We brothers don't have any fresh girls to serve us this new year. We can't compare to you. You have a beautiful woman in your bed." Lao Air saw that Lao Air was unhappy and Lao Air was eager to try. He laughed and said, "Well said, who we she chue 3 wolves been afraid of? Big brother has meat to eat. We can't let the brothers drink only soup. Let's go. Today we'll do a good job and let the brothers eat meat." Finished speaking, the 3 of them turned their horses around and rushed towards Zhang Xiaolong and the others. The other 4 people also came from the side. At this time, Zhang Xiaohua had finished drinking water and handed her leather bag to Lao Air. His ears were very sensitive. He heard the sound of horses galloping away and then turning back. He immediately looked up and saw 7 people rushing towards him. He became alert and quickly said to Zhang Xiaolong, "Big brother, be careful. The group of people who just passed by our back. Is there something wrong?" Zhang Xiaolong was just talking to Lu Qian and Lu Yeye. He didn't notice the horses passing by. Now that he heard Zhang Xiaohua's reminder, he immediately looked up and saw the Shi Chui 3 wolves looking at him with lustful eyes. He shouted in his heart, "Not good. Why did I encounter such a thing again?" Just as he was about to have Lu Yeye hide inside the bridal sedan chair, the horses had already arrived in front of him. Zhang Xiaolong frowned and pulled Lu Yeye behind him. He cupped his fists and said, "What orders do you have for me?" The one who rushed at the front was the second brother of the Shi Chui 3 wolves. He saw Zhang Xiaolong salute but didn't answer. He didn't even slow down the horse. Borrowing the horse's momentum, he lifted his leg and kicked towards Zhang Xiaolong's chest. Although Zhang Xiaolong didn't practice martial arts, he was still a young man. He was agile. He quickly moved sideways and got Lu Yeye out of the way. The second brother's leg kicked below his shoulder. Zhang Xiaolong screamed, and his body flew out. He fell on the side of the road far away. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, and he fainted on his back. The water bag was also thrown far away, allowing the water to gush out. Zhang Xiaohua saw that his big brother was injured. He was shocked and wanted to run over. The third brother of the Shi Chui Three Wolves rode a horse and rushed towards him. He raised his hand and whipped. Zhang Xiaohua saw the whip coming and quickly dodged. He raised his hand and wanted to grab the whip. However, he had exhausted all his strength to pull the bow and shoot arrows this morning. At this moment, his arms were still sore and he couldn't use any strength. He watched the whip hit his face and could only tilt his head as much as possible. The whip fell on his shoulder. Zhang Xiaohua also screamed "ah" and fell to the ground. The whip on his body was burning hot, and he couldn't help but cry. After the second brother and the third brother of the Shi Chui Three Wolves succeeded, they didn't stop. Instead, they rushed to the rest of the people resting on the side of the road and raised their whips to hit them. The eldest brother ran to the front of the sedan chair. He didn't move forward. Instead, he tightened the reins and stopped. Seeing the second brother and the third brother running to the others, he said to the other 4 people around him, "Go and help them." The other 4 people immediately pulled out their weapons from their waists or horses and outflanked them from different directions. They shouted as they walked, "Shi Chui Mountain is working here. Those who have nothing to do with it should leave quickly." There were still some people on the road. When they saw these people rushing over and injuring people, they felt strange. There were also some busybodies who stopped to watch the fun. When they heard this, they immediately scattered like birds and animals and fled. The rest of the wedding procession was also very angry when they saw several people on horseback injuring the groom and the best man. They wanted to stand up and pick up the weapons in their hands to win with numbers. However, they didn't expect that the other party had knives and spears. Moreover, they were the bandits of Shi Chui Mountain. How could they still have the courage? They didn't have time to care about the others. They were all shouting mother and father. They didn't even want to eat anymore. They threw away everything in their hands and fled in all directions. In the blink of an eye, there were no extra people on the busy road just now. There were only Zhang Xiaolong lying on the ground, Zhang Xiaohua struggling to get up, Lu Yiye who was panicking and didn't know what to do, and the people of Shi Chui Mountain who succeeded in their plot and were complacent. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.